Officer Byron Shields of the Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, died in the line of duty on January 20th after contracting COVID-19. That, fortunately, is the only line of duty death that we have to report this week. So we will now take a moment of silence to honor the fallen police officers, firefighters and first responders, and military veterans that have lost their lives in the line of duty. Welcome back to the Blue Room, guys, where we have the right to remain silent, but
that ain't happening.
That ain't happening. You're right. Before we get started, I just want to remind you all of some officers that are not forgotten. You were not forgotten, NYPD police officers Rocco Laurie and Gregory Foster, who were assassinated on January 27th in 1972 by cowards from the Black Liberation Army. Officers Laurie and Foster were walking their beat in the 9th Precinct when they were shot and killed by 3 or 4 mutts as they walked past them. These guys from the BLA passed the officers and then turned around and shot them in the back. And if that wasn't enough, they then turned around, took the guns of the officers, and finished the job. These officers are not forgotten. You were not forgotten, NYPD Detective Jimmy McKenna. I worked with Jimmy in the 4-6 back in the 90s. Jimmy retired as a second-grade detective in December of 2020 after 30 years of service. And then Jimmy took his own life last week. Rest in peace, my brother. But we always speak about depression being underreported and overlooked. Cancer is an illness. COVID-19 is an illness. Depression is an illness. If you think you need help or you know someone that needs help, reach out, guys. There's no lack of resources for this illness. It's unfortunate that it's overlooked and it's not given the attention that it needs. So keep an eye on that, will you? All right, let's get to it. Our first guest started his life of public service in 1974 when he joined the U.S. Army, serving in the military police, and has not stopped giving back ever since. Following up that service with the Passaic County Sheriff's Office, the New York City Police Department, the New York City Corrections Department, and then back to the NYPD in 2000 when he was appointed as the 40th Police Commissioner. Welcome to the show, NYPD Commissioner Bernie Kerik.
Thanks, guys.
Bernie, how are you, man?
How you doing?
Commissioner, thank you so much for coming in. It's so important. There's only a handful of law enforcement at your level that have been such a strong advocate from day one, the ups and the downs for this profession. And it's important that we share resources and we work on this together, because right now it's not a really good time to be in law enforcement. As you know, I've caught your show on ABC, your podcast, and you hit on it often. So it's appreciated that the men and women aren't forgotten.
Well, I think the majority of people in the country, they think like we do. They appreciate the men and women that go out there and do a job that nobody else would do. Most times, especially on the East Coast, they seem to be underpaid, underappreciated, but they go out and do that job anyway. I think most people, they appreciate it. They support them. They think about them. They pray for them. But there is an element out there, in New York City, in New Jersey, in other places around the country, where they despise the cops. And we're seeing much more of this despising the cops by government leaders, where they want to defund the police. They want to diminish the police. They want to take away their power. They want to victimize the thugs, villainize the cops. We're seeing a lot more of that. And I think in your local elections, people have to start paying attention to who they're electing and what the real policies are. Because the bottom line is, these people get into office, they want to diminish the police, they want to defund the police. Where does it have an impact on that community? And then the community leaders are saying, wait a minute, crime's going up. This is happening, that's happening. Well, you know why it's happening? Because you voted that mayor into office. So I think there has to be a hard look at local politics all around the country to stop electing people, putting them into positions where they can do this.
Well, one of the things, when you say they're underfunded, I think a lot of that has to do also, it comes back to being undermanned. It's really hard to do this job when I worked in a 4-6, we would turn out 40, it was in the 90s, we turn out 40 guys, 14, 15, 16 cars on a Thursday night in the summer. That's not happening anymore. They just don't have the manpower to support the work that needs to get done.
Well, listen, if you go, and you would understand this, when did you go on the job?
94.
94. Okay, so Giuliani was just coming into office, right, in 94. I went on in 86. And between 86 and 94, we had a homicide rate of 2,200 a year. We had more homicides in New York City than they have today in, think of these cities now, Atlanta, Chicago, Baltimore, Minnesota, Milwaukee, combined. We had more homicides in New York then, from 90, 91, 92, 93. And then Giuliani came in and basically said, look, nobody wants to visit, live, work, or go to school in a place where they're not safe. So the only thing we can do to make the city better, make it, thrive, economic development, real estate values, tourism, the only way that's going to happen is if you reduce crime. So for Giuliani, it was a no-brainer. Increase the manpower. Put the cops in the streets. And whether it was me or when I was in correction, I actually went back to correction in 94, 95, he had a major push. Put the cops in the streets. If we don't have enough manpower, put them on overtime. Get more cops, get more cops, get more cops. And for all the enhancements of the police, you saw the crime reducing, and you saw the economic development rising, the real estate values rising, the tourism rising.
So Times Square before he, the hookers and the squeegee people,
And
and they spoke about all the squeegee thing, how it was, it was terrible that they were taking the squeegee guys off the street, but those quality of life crimes that, the broken windows theory worked. Like when you took those guys off the corners, tourism increased, value of the city increased, and quality of life increased.
Well, you know what the critics, Giuliani's critics, my critics, the liberals, what they won't tell you is when those programs started, the quality of life programs, right? When they initially started, and we started attacking, low-level crime in the subways, for example, turnstile jumping, it's $1, right? People said, you're harassing people. You're busting their chops. Leave them alone. They're trying to get a ride. What they didn't tell you and what they won't tell you is that 50% of the people that we stopped for jumping turnstiles had felony warrants. Guns, robberies, murder, you name it. 50% of the people that were jumping turnstiles, we wound up locking up for violent offenses, felony offenses. So it worked, and it worked well.
We had a captain named Stephen Schmidt, and he would do it every Friday and Saturday in the summer, and we all thought it was a joke. He'd have us go out with the paddy wagon. Kevin Winters would drive the paddy wagon, and we were grabbing guys sitting on the milk crates on the corners. So you get 3 or 4 guys sitting on the milk crate. They were in possession of stolen property because the milk crate was owned by the milk company, Darrell Farms or Milkwood or whatever it was. And we often joked and we laughed, like, Schmidt's at it again. This guy's a lunatic. But the numbers went down. The felony crime numbers went down. Now, I can't say it was directly associated to that, but certain areas like Fordham Road, Grand Concourse, 187, Creston, 183, those numbers went down because we were out there taking these guys off the corners for something like sitting on a milk crate.
And the other thing is, the guys know you're out there. They know you're out there. They know you have the support and the indemnification behind the department, in the department, to go out and do the job. Today, that's not happening.
No, we definitely don't have the
Today,
support.
the cops are scared to death. Is the mayor going to win? Is he going to support them? Is the DA going to prosecute them? Is the attorney general going to come after him? That's a question that every cop in New York City has to deal with today.
But when we talk about crime, it's not just New York City. So you look at places like Baltimore, Chicago, L.A., Portland. The one thing they have in common is they all have Democratic mayors. They have Democratic governors. The DAs in Philly, Krasner. Lightheart talks about Krasner all the time. There's the mayor over there, Kenny.
He's definitely on his hit list.
Yeah. if you could, if this was Magic Land, if you could, snap your fingers and, I don't know, write 37 executive orders, pick a random number out of the sky to change that in any one of those cities, and not just here, because the remedy is the same, right? And whatever needs to get done in New York needs to get done in Chicago, needs to get done in Baltimore, needs to get done in LA, it needs to get done in Portland. If you could pick 3 things that you could change, and you say, I can pick these things out right now. Change this, change this, change this. We're going to see a dramatic drop in crime. What would you suggest?
3 things: manpower, number 1, right? You need without the manpower, you're not doing shit. You're not doing anything without the manpower. The second thing is you need real leadership. The difference between the mayor today and Giuliani is Giuliani understood the problem, and he would basically let you go out and do your job. If I went to him and said, look, we're having a problem with whatever it was. If I said, I need this, I need A, B, C, D to do that, he would give it to me. And this is a basic management principle. If you want somebody to do a job for you, you ask them to do that job, you give them the resources to do it. If they fail, they failed. But don't tell them go out and do a job and not give them the resources, because if you don't, you failed. That was your fault. That's what happens today. You have a mayor telling the cops go out and do their job, but do it handcuffed.
Well, what you're saying they don't have the resources. It's even a bigger problem than that, is that we had the resources, and now you're taking them away.
And now you're taking them away.
It's like teaching your kid, like Common Core math. I teach my kids the way I taught math, and they get it. And then their Common Core is shoved down their throat, and now they have to relearn how to do something that they've done for so many years.
So listen, you have the manpower, right? You need the leadership, and then you need different district attorneys. A lot of these DAs, Krasner, the DA in St. Louis, Missouri, a lot of these people are funded by George Soros. They are funded by the radical Marxist left, who basically, they're all anti-cops.
The guy in San Francisco, his parents were part of the guys that killed the cops up in Rockland County.
Right, the BLA and the Weather Underground. Yeah. It's funny, when you were mentioning Rocco Lori before, and a lot of people today don't realize that the BLA then is carried on a lot today through the Black Matters movement. The woman that's one of their primary fundraisers is Susan Rosenberg. Susan Rosenberg was involved in a number of the events in New York City back in the 70s with the BLA and the Weather Underground. They're all connected, and the leaders of the BLM today were inspired by Joanne Chesimard, Assata Shakur, who's in exile right now in Cuba. So it's all connected. It's the same stuff. It's just a different year. The only difference is today you have political players putting a lot of money into these DAs. You have political players putting a lot of money into elected local officials, which is what I talked about earlier, that are calling for the defunding and diminishment of the police. When you do that, you take $1 billion out of the NYPD budget. What do? You take away the resources. You take away the training. Think. And you were on the job years ago, 25 years ago. Think about how much training we put into the NYPD to make them better, right? You want them to have ASP training. You want them to have, de-escalation training. You want them to have verbal judo. You do all this stuff to make the cops the best they can be, and all of a sudden, well, let's cut the budget by $1 billion.
How that makes any sense?
You lose everything you built, everything you wanted them to do. You're now taking it away, plus all their specialized equipment, plus their overtime. Everything that they are supposed to do, they're not going to be able to do. And then you sit around like a circle jerk, a bunch of morons at City Hall saying, crime is going up and we can't figure it out.
And what about the counterterrorism unit of the NYPD?
Well, not only the counterterrorism unit, but the anti-crime unit, the plainclothes units.
Jesus.
All these units that, they do really God's work. They go out, they take guns off the streets. They do things that, really have a positive impact on reducing crime. You cut them. You get rid of them. You sit them on on the sidelines.
And the manpower is exactly what Lynch referenced the other night, and which I love when he rips into de Blasio, right in front of de Blasio when he does, the pressers.
Standing 2 feet away from him.
2 feet away from him. And the manpower, he says, just like you were saying, he goes, everybody's sitting here trying to come up with a program and reinvent the wheel. We know what needs to be done.
We do it well.
You know,
We've been doing
I want to talk about that for a second, because Patty's got a really good point, and I don't think anybody focuses on this. And leaders around the country, law enforcement leaders, people like me, that should really be out there talking about the realities of what's going on because they've been through it. I have a problem with the chiefs and the executives around the country that don't say this. And here is the problem. We know what the problem is. The problem isn't the cops. The problem isn't the cops. You have bad apples in every department. When you find them, you deal with them administratively, or you fire them, or you lock them up if they're really bad. But that's a select few. The problem isn't the cops. The problem is the communities where this high crime is. Well,
Right.
if you don't let us go and do the job in those areas, people think, they say cops go out and they target blacks in the black community. No, cops go out and they target crime. They look at a map. The map is pin mapped with every serious crime in that community, and then a commander, a precinct commander, or the police commissioner says, see all those red dots where the murder and the shootings and the robberies are? And that's where we're going. If that happens to be in a black community,
Sure.
that's where they're going. It has nothing to do with the color of the skin of the people in the community. It's all about where the crime is. And that's what people like me, you have to explain this stuff when you're out there because nobody gets it.
But also, they don't understand is that if you have a community that's made up of 80% of any demographic, then most of the crime is going to be committed by that same demographic. And most of the arrests are going to be that same demographic. The FBI's got the data, and, we can shove it down their throat all we want to say, hey, there's a certain amount of violent crime that's committed by a certain percentage of people in this community or in this city. It's going to be reflective of the amount of arrests that happen in regards to those crimes. You can't make it up. I live in Rockaway Beach. The area that I live in is predominantly white, but it's a peninsula, so it changes as you go down into Auburn and Far Rockaway. The folks committing crime down in Auburn and Far Rockaway are going to be a different dynamic than the folks that are up on 130th Street. Just the way it is. The burglaries that happen up where I live are by white people. The burglaries that happen down on 30th Street are by black people. So you're going to lock up people up here of one color because that's who lives here. You're going to lock up people of another color because that's where they live. It's just not. You don't make it up.
No, you don't. You don't make it up. But what we don't do enough is we don't push back. We don't fight back. We don't tell. When they come out with these narratives, more black unarmed people are shot and killed by cops, at rates that are outrageous. Well, the reality is they're not. In fact, the numbers this year for 2020, for last year, they're out already, and there were 450, white people killed by cops, 256, I think, blacks killed by cops. It's a narrative that they promote, a false narrative, and then nobody on the other side says anything. They sort of let it ride, but that runs along the political lines of this country today, where you have this cancel culture. People are afraid. They're afraid to say they're Republican. Forget about you're a conservative. Forget about you're a Trump supporter.
Jesus Christ.
They're scared to death to say, I'm a Republican. And they won't fight back. So these narratives, these false narratives that are put out, I think we have to stand up more than what we do and say, look, you're wrong. You're wrong. You can if you want to think that, you want to make believe that, you can do what you want. But the reality is this.
But you couldn't, like a chief or a commissioner couldn't really do that because you're going to be targeted as a racist. When someone breaks in to say there was a guy that in the White House last year that hopped the fence and got into the front door and he wasn't shot. He was white. And then you're going to have people that say, well, if he was a black guy, he would have been shot and killed. No, he wouldn't have. Oh, if the people that if you look at the racial makeup of the folks that stormed the Capitol building January 6th, you would say, well, most of the people there were white. How come none of them were shot? Like,
Actually, they were.
No,
I mean,
the one woman. But when they tried to take over, was the 8A precinct over the summer when they broke in?
But Tom,
and those guys didn't shoot anyone.
You know who I blame for that? Honestly, I blame the executives. I blame the executives, and I make that I make that claim based on personal experience in dealing with Giuliani. If you go back to our time in office, any of the major blowouts that we had, any one of them, whether it was Amadou Diallo or any of them, in the aftermath of that event, Giuliani would have a press conference. And in that press conference, he'd bring all the commanders, the police commissioner, he'd bring charts, graphs, photos, you name it, he would put it all in the blue room, and he would say, this is what happened. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And he'd go around the room to demonstrate what happened, why, what we know, what we don't know, and that's where we're at. The investigation's continuing. We're not going to make a determination until the investigation's done. And you nip all that stuff in the bud. Today, nobody does that.
Well, he was a federal prosecutor, so he handles himself a very different way than, say, Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, who, I don't know,
That's your favorite.
crawled out from under a rock somewhere, and all of a sudden she's the mayor of a major metropolitan city and trying her best to save lives, and is just killing people left, right, and center.
Chief Craig in Detroit does that.
It's the best.
He does exactly what you said. I mean, talk about getting out in front as soon as an incident happens. You're right. It almost seems like minutes later.
James Craig, and I've said this publicly. In fact, I was one of the ones that talked to Danny about Blue Magazine, going to talk to him. James Craig is one of the best chiefs, I think, in this country. He works in Detroit. It's a rough job. It's a rough area. But this is a guy that stands up, calls things what they are, doesn't let the community beat him down. He has his differences with the mayor.
And who's a Democrat. The mayor's
who's
a Democrat.
But I got to give these guys credit. The mayor listens to him. The mayor does the job he has to do. He may not like the outcome all the time, but at the end of the day, Jim Craig is a stand-up guy. When they were recently, all the political stuff in Washington was going on, somebody asked me about the FBI, and I said, you know what you need in the FBI? You need to stop putting U.S. attorneys in the position of director of the FBI. Mm-hmm. You need a cop. You need a real cop.
Yep.
And the first person I said, you know who you need? You need a guy like James Craig to take over the FBI.
Yes.
Stop the U.S. attorneys. Stop the lawyers. No more. You need real investigators, real cops. That's what it's supposed to be. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the Justice Department, is supposed to run the prosecutions, not the FBI. The FBI is supposed to be the investigative staff. It's supposed to be the law enforcement capacity of the federal government. Somebody like James Craig would do a phenomenal job as director of the FBI.
And he's very modest.
I would love to see that.
We had him on the show, and the one thing he said was, especially during the summer riots all over the country, he said we didn't have him in Detroit. He said I didn't have him in Detroit. There's a reason we didn't have him in Detroit, and he didn't get into it because he's a modest guy. He wasn't patting himself on the back, but we all got it. There's a reason that Detroit did not suffer what Baltimore suffered, and Ferguson suffered, and Milwaukee suffered, and all these other cities. New York City suffered.
Los Angeles,
because
he empowered his cops.
He empowered his cops, but he had the support. More importantly, he had the support of the mayor. You had the undying support of your mayor.
But you know what else he had? And I had this in New York. He had the support of the communities, the real community leaders. Keep in mind, when you have these riots, these aren't protests, these are riots, right? Mm-hmm. You may have a local community group, a local, activist. They protest, they peacefully protest. But all these overthrows where they burn down these cities or attempt to, those are done by outsiders. Those are done by Antifa, by Black Lives Matter. They come in, they're antagonists, they're anarchists. They come in, they instigate, they incite, and that's when the violence happens. Craig, much like Ambrose in Newark, when there was talk of riots, they called in all their community leaders. And they said, listen, this is your community. You built these businesses. We ain't having this. Nobody's going to burn down your businesses. Nobody's going to take over your city. You need to work with us to do this. You have problems with the police department, you come and tell me. We'll deal with that. But at the end of the day, it's a team effort. The police department, the community, the mayor, emboldening the cops, letting them do their job. Don't handcuff them, and give the cops orders. You know, you go out there, you do your job. Don't overdo it. Abide by the law. If you abide by the law, I'm going to support you. You're going to be supported by this administration. Just do your job. And you know what? Craig didn't have any problems. They didn't have any problems in Newark neither.
So I feel like this is almost like a trial program where we're going to, the bail reform is ridiculous. You know, you have guys committing felonies and then 4 hours later are standing on the same corner they were arrested at to then commit another felony if they choose to, defunding the police. At some point, aren't the mayors and the DAs going to step back and go, ooh, I think we were wrong? Like, aren't the community people going to say enough is enough? Because when that happens, how do you get it back?
No, well, you keyed on it. It's not the mayors and the politicians. They never get it. They're constantly trying to fight that battle, right? They're constantly trying to, they know everything. They know what's right. You know when it changes? When the communities and the cities have had enough. When did it change in New York City? Think from the 70s, 80s into the early 90s. Crime was at its highest. New York City was a crime haven, right?
Wow.
Whether it was shootings, murders, abandoned vehicles. You couldn't go down the Major Deegan without seeing 200 cars on carjacks.
And not even the seven majors, like all the other stuff you're talking about, like the graffiti, the broken windows.
It was a dump. It was a cesspool of crime. That's what New York City was. And finally, the voters said, enough is enough. We got to get somebody else in. Giuliani was a Republican. He was coming in behind Dinkins. He had lost to Dinkins once. You know what? At the end of the day, they said enough is enough. We got to vote somebody else in. They put Giuliani in, and that's when the change occurred. Change will happen when the community suffered the most, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But especially for some of these communities, they're getting hammered right now. Minneapolis, you drive through Minneapolis, it looks like Iraq.
It's like Mogadishu.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
God damn. But Banana Republic in the United States.
So Giuliani had it. He realized what needed to be done, and Bloomberg more or less rode that out. But Bloomberg, I think, also being a businessman just like Trump, got it. Run it like a business.
Right.
Bloomberg ran the city like a business. Donald Trump ran the country like a business. I get it. Some feelings were hurt.
The one thing that Bloomberg did that I think was pretty slick, besides running the city like a business, Bloomberg didn't know anything about policing. He wasn't like a Giuliani, right? He wasn't a former U.S. attorney. But Ray Kelly, he gave Ray Kelly the job and said, you do the job. It's just like I said before. You do the job. I'll give you the resources you need, but you got to survive. You got to keep reducing crime. You got to keep hammering it away. And Ray was smart enough to follow the policies that have been put in place from 1994 on.
But also keep your guys in check. This is not the 60s. We're not going out there and just like kicking in doors and smashing heads. And that didn't happen in the 90s.
And Bloomberg's numbers continued to drop to historic lows, unparalleled.
I remember that.
Yeah, and and then de Blasio come in, and the whole thing changed.
But even the manpower. So back in I'm going to go with the mid-90s, NYPD probably had 38,000 members, somewhere along those lines. Even to bring it back up to that number, I think the mentality of the people that run the city, and Shay's a good guy. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I feel like something happened between Shay and de Blasio where they're not at each other's throats anymore. And maybe there's an agreement, hey, just ride this out. And we can, you'll have a career and I'll have a career, maybe. But recently, one of the councilmen proposed a system for controlling large groups, where that the disorder control guys would be around the corner with their gear on. They didn't want to see cops with helmets. They didn't want to see cops with protective gear on in the middle of the street, when the people that you were there to kind of control were wearing riot gear. I mean, they were, back in the day, you couldn't have a stick with a sign. You had to have like a plastic tube from like Christmas wrapping paper or some shit. You staple to it, and that's what you held your sign up with. And now they're holding those signs up with baseball bats, and nothing gets done. So you want these riot control cops, you want CRC and SRG and every other 3-letter digit code for department units to be around the corner while the patrol guy is out there with no hats and no bats to control this. And now you're expecting those guys to come back in. Like you got to show a little.
I have to tell you that is and I'm the first person, and I'm not embarrassed to say it. I try not to criticize the guys that were in the position I was in before me or after me. I blame that on the mayor. I blame it on the mayor. It's his policies. It's his department. He is the commander-in-chief of the police department. That's the bottom line. And if they're out there and they're letting people get away with this stuff, that's because he's allowing it. Giuliani would never allow it.
Not only does allow it, I think he wants it. It's not even about we're going to
definitely
let this happen. I think he
but-
wants
but-
this to
I
happen.
agree, Tom. I think it's more on purpose. I mean, he's not the only one. The mayor of LA said the same thing. They did fund their own LAPD, the police department, for $1.3 billion, I think.
And that's why the chief of LA left. He
Yeah,
retired.
but
He
keep,
said, I
keep
can't.
in mind, when you say that you think he wants it, he does want it. Keep in mind, in 1987, this is a guy that was supporting the Sandinistas. This guy is a Marxist.
I did not know that.
He's an admitted Marxist. He's a left-wing radical Marxist who, back in the 80s, he was supporting the Sandinistas. He was supporting groups like the BLA and the Black Liberation Army, the Black Panther Party, the Weather Underground.
But Commissioner, you got to ask yourself. I mean, as a politician, which he is obviously in the United
Not
States,
really. Sorry.
what's the end game to that? I mean, to wanting that.
Socialism.
I mean, really, it's
That's the end game.
Almost like
That's his
Venezuela.
end game.
Think about Venezuela or Brazil, for example, right? Most people live in government assisted housing, the favelas, and that's where the crime is up to the roof, right? The same thing in Caracas in Venezuela.
I can't.
So-
I
Well,
can't see socialism.
it didn't work there.
I mean, obviously, it didn't work. Obviously,
The latest.
But listen, socialism doesn't work anywhere. I don't care what country it is. When you look at the countries that had to, that have made an attempt to infuse socialism, communism into those countries, it's never ever worked. But there's always this radical push to do it. And the problem we have today is there's a radical push in the political arena, and there's a major radical push within our education system, from high school up, our colleges, our universities.
lower than high school.
Tom, everyone, if they're not in prison, right? If they're not in prison, every one of the Black Liberation Army members and the Black Panther parties and the Weather Underground and the Sam Melville, Jonathan Jackson unit people from the 70s and 80s, every single one that's not in prison, you know what they did when they come out? They taught in universities. They taught in John Jay Criminal Justice College in New York City. They taught in universities all over the country. Bill Ayers, Obama's pal, right? The Weather Underground. Every one of these guys taught in universities. And what did they teach? Anti-American socialist revolution.
It's unbelievable.
That's what they taught. That's what they stand for. And that's what kids are hearing today when they go to school. And it's terrible.
And that's one thing. If my kid comes home and says, "Hey, this is what we learned today," my kids happen to go to a liberal private school, and we discuss things. And my wife is a lib. We have these open discussions. We have a choice to send our kids to certain schools or not to be in certain classes. But this guy's an elected official of the greatest city in the country. And he's pushing that agenda down our throats. The latest one was, and he credits Eric Adams with this, as far as the policing goes, is to allow the communities to have a say in who the commanding officer is in each command. Which again this is a divisive, he's a black and white mayor. We know that he pushed out Pichardo, who was a hell of a commanding officer. I mean he was the chief of patrol. I mean, I know a lot of people. I know more chiefs on this job since I retired than I ever
He
had.
was making collars.
Yeah, Actually, it took Commissioner May Collis.
So-
Commissioner May Collis.
I made 7 arrests as police
As a
commissioner.
commissioner.
And the mayor eventually told me, you do know what your job is, right? You need to stop.
So, Commissioner,
Hold on, let me finish this, Christian. So now we're going to allow the communities to have a say in who's the CO. Which, I mean, I have a good friend of mine, Kenny Lair. He's the chief of Patrol Borough Bronx. White guy, good dude, worked his ass off his whole career. He'll never have that job. Petrardo was forced out to get Juanita Homes in. We all know that. You can't allow the community to have that much influence in this.
Here's the problem with this policy, or whatever you want to call it. You're going to allow the precinct community leaders to make a decision on who's going to run that precinct. You know the corruption issues involved with that? Do you know? Do you know, like, the political problems you cause with that? I mean, that when I first heard it, I honestly thought it was a joke. I thought it was somebody pulling my leg and just being stupid. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's like going to a meeting when de Blasio took over, and Bill Bratton was the PC then, right after I left, or after Kelly left. Right after Kelly left, Bill Bratton had to go to a meeting with de Blasio when de Blasio took over, and he had to sit with Al Sharpton at that meeting, the three of them, and it was a policy meeting on the NYPD. And as I watched this on
With Al
TV,
Sharpton.
all I could think of was, I never saw Al Sharpton on the NYPD table of organization. Where was he? Because he doesn't have a damn thing to do with NYPD policy, and shouldn't. Shouldn't. He's one of the most critical activists against the NYPD in New York history. And you sit him at a table and say, Reverend Sharpton's going to sit here and work with us on NYPD policy?
wow.
What are you, out of your mind?
Well, this guy was also
It's a
invited
joke.
into the Obama White House, 35 times or something?
Listen,
like a record
I don't care. The Obama White House is fine. He can go politic. He can do whatever he wants. But he has nothing to do with the NYPD policy.
No.
The community leaders, they can talk to the borough commanders. They can tell them what they think about the people that work in their commands. Correct. But they should not have any influence over who's going to take over a precinct. Never.
No one's going to want that position anymore. That's going to be the problem they're going to run into. People are going to stop wanting that promotion. And then what?
No. Quite the contrary. You're going to have people that want that position, and they're going to politic for it, and they're going to get it. And then what happens? So think of it that way. Think of it that way.
And they're going to make promises, because then it becomes politics and not policing. That's exactly what
right.
happens.
Empty
And then-
promises,
So what happens
basically.
is then you get someone that comes in that politics for that position, and then crime goes through the roof. Who's responsible? So you get called up in front of Constap. How come this, and this is that? Well, because we're not allowed to do this, and this anymore. What
If they're responsible for helping identify people that's going to be in the position, you open it up completely for all kind of problems.
So,
Where'd he go?
Commissioner, so this is back in 2016 when New York City settles the lawsuits by the Muslim community due to surveillance, right? And it says that agreement brings to reforms to the NYPD, including banning investigations where race, religion, or ethnicity is substantial or motivating factor. What are your thoughts on that, and how does that affect today, especially now with the defund police movement is going on? Do you think New York City is more vulnerable now than ever for a major terrorist attack like 9/11?
Look, here's what I think. The courts, the critics, the know-it-alls out there, when they talk about profiling, a lot of that had to do with these court motions and hearings and lawsuits involving profiling. The bottom line is, it wasn't racial profiling. It's not religious profiling. There is a thing called criminal profiling. Criminal profiling. Cops do it every day, every single day. And you do it at different levels depending on what you're looking for, right? You're looking for terrorists. You're looking for people that may attempt to engage in some major act of violence against a community, against a city, whatever the case may be, you're looking at a certain profile. I think a lot of that stuff had to do with the way it was handled. I think a lot of it had to do with the way they responded to some of these lawsuits. But I think at the end of the day, cops can't be prevented from doing their job, whether it's local, state, or federal.
Right.
The Joint Terrorist Task Forces, especially in cities, like Newark or New York City, or in these bigger cities around the country where the local PDs, they don't have, the ability, or the FBI in these smaller states, they don't have the ability to do this stuff on their own. They need other departments. They need the state and the locals to assist, and they have to profile. They have to look for what the element, the violent crime element is they're looking for. They have to do it, and they have to stand up against these motions, against these hearings and lawsuits.
But we do it every day. I mean, I retired in '05. I still profile, if you call it profiling, that I walk down the street and my wife will say, "You don't see the skin color of the person first?" I said, "No, I assess the threat level. I see somebody, is that person," and I tell my kids, "You have a threat level, 1, 2, and 3. A 1 is keep an eye on them. 2 is cross the street, and 3 is avoid them at all costs." I don't care what the color of your skin is,
Right.
but that's what everyone should do that as a human. Like if you're going down the street with your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you should be aware of the people around
Yeah,
you.
but Tony, you know what the problem with that is? Here's the reality. You do it, I do it. Anybody that's been on the shop, you've done it, you do it. I'm retired 20 years. I still do it. The problem is the people around you, my kids, well, not necessarily. My kids are on it. But normally,
well, your son's on the job somewhere, right?
Well, my son, yeah.
We won't get into where but Teeth gets it.
My neighbor, his wife's walking down the street. She doesn't have a clue. Like she's oblivious.
Yep.
The world can come crashing down. They don't have a clue. The bottom line is, this stuff. A lot of this is instinctual for us. A lot of this it's a part of your training. It's a part of your time in service. It's a part of your instinct. And you build this over time, and then people look at you and go, "Oh, you're profiling," or "Oh, you're a racist." No, I'm a cop, and I've been a cop for 40 years, and
it's second nature to you.
It's
Cautious.
second nature.
And,
cautious.
and part of the problem that's happening now with all these cops leaving is you're losing all those guys who have built that over time,
Well,
and you're losing them sooner than they may have left had the climate not been so bad, had they been supported. You're losing all these trained guys who have all this experience, have that instinct that they could pass down to these younger guys. They're fleeing now, so these younger guys are...
Well, that's a twofold problem. You're losing the older guys with the training, with the background, with the experience, with that instinct. You're losing them, and the guys you're getting to replace them, they don't have it, and they're never going to get it.
Because
They're never going to get
it's
it.
taught.
Because it's taught, and they ain't teaching it today.
Nope.
So that's a problem.
Yeah.
So before we get into, I want to touch base on the books that you wrote because it's something resonates in what you're doing there. But before we get to that, quick question: are we ever going to see what is in Hunter Biden's laptop?
Oh.
Is this happening? Come on.
Well, listen, I've seen what's in the laptop. I was with Mayor Giuliani when he received it. We've gone through it, and actually, and this isn't. I'm not saying nothing that's not public. We actually made a criminal referral to the police down in Delaware, based on the things that I found in the laptop. Made that criminal referral. They gave it to the Delaware State Police, who then gave it to the FBI, and we later found out that the FBI had it. The real question is, what's going to happen as a result? I hate to think that the FBI is so politically motivated or driven internally that they're not going to prosecute for crimes that are overwhelming in that computer.
My God.
Whether it's SEC violations, fraud, you name it. And there's a bunch of stuff in that computer where anybody else, I promise you, anybody else would have been prosecuted already. So it's only a matter of time.
So You love when I talk about my acting career.
Oh, here we go.
As I did a lot. I did,
Or your time in the Bronx. Those are the two.
Stop. As when I was acting, I did some stuff. The big key for successful actors is showing their vulnerability, like showing people that you can hurt, showing people that there's a side of you that no one else knows, exposing yourself to that. And your first book, The Lost Son, impossible to overshadow the vulnerability that you showed in that, telling the story about you growing up and your mom and that she was murdered and they never found out, and you were digging into that, and just opening yourself up to the world was just incredible. And then you back that up with from jailer to jailed. Like, talk about, vulnerability and exposing yourself and basically saying, you know what, I'm a regular guy. I'm not hiding from anything, nothing I can get away from. Like,
Which was an equally phenomenal book. I'll get to. Go ahead. You first.
Is that where does that come from? How does someone, we're alpha males, right? Cops in general are alpha males. You were the commissioner of the greatest police department in the history of the world, as alpha males it gets. Turns around and says, I'm going to expose myself to the world to see, what hurts here.
Yeah, but
Like,
you know what, guys? It's a lot of it's just common sense. If you're going to write a book, a biography, if you're going to write about yourself, I learned from a number of people that did it before me. You can't hide. You can't hide anything because somebody out there knows the real story. My books came out, and there's only one legal problem out of all my books. I wrote a novel and I wrote 2 biographies, one backing up the other. And the only person that ever had a problem, I swear, the only person that ever had a problem and sued me because of my first book was the informant in the biggest drug investigation in New York DEA task force, who said, I put him in danger by putting him in the book. Well, dude, it was a public case. It went to trial. You were sentenced to 25 years to life
You weren't hiding
in prison. Like, it's not like I let it out of the bag. And that case was dismissed. They were difficult books to write. Anytime you talk about your own life, things that have happened to you that are traumatic, it's difficult. The first book, I think there were 2 major things in the first book that were really difficult for me, and that was my mother's tragic life. I was abandoned when I was 3.5. She was beaten to death and murdered when I was 9. I didn't find out about it until I was like 17, and then when I was police commissioner, that's when I actually found out that she was murdered. And here I am, 27 years later or whatever, working on a cold case investigation with the state of Ohio, trying to figure out who killed her. So that was an issue. My daughter, who was from Korea, her mom was from Korea, that was difficult to talk about. And then in the second book, there was a lot of great stuff in there about follow-up on my career, going to Iraq, working in Iraq, working for the King of Jordan, doing a bunch of stuff that honestly a lot of people didn't even know I did.
Crazy shit.
You're like the head of investigation for the hospital. I mean, there was just so much. The royal family, and again, that's stuff that no one really knows about.
Nobody knew. Nobody knows about. For the most part.
I like the visit from the bishop. Like, I don't know, with the message delivery that he had.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And you know what's crazy about the bishop to this day? In 2012, he was actually kidnapped. That bishop was kidnapped in Syria, and he's never been heard from again.
My God.
But and that's something I went through. But I think the hardest thing about the second book was talking about being targeted by the U.S. government. It's when you're one of us and you work in the field we are, you don't realize the torment and the torture that's put on a person that's criminally targeted by the government, whether it's the local, state, or federal authorities, right? you don't realize that being investigated and especially convicted in a court of law in this country, you are personally, professionally, and financially devastated. You're annihilated. And for the most part, I have to admit, nobody gives a damn. Nobody thinks about you. Nobody cares about you. You're sort of a number. You're a victory on a notch on a belt, right? For me, I had issues that came out of my nomination for Homeland Security. They were resolved in the Bronx. They were ethical issues. I was told by my attorney it was over. Go on about your business. Wasn't a felony. Wasn't a misdemeanor. 2 ethics violations. But then Rudy Giuliani announced he was running for mayor. And when he did, the federal government came in and basically used my guilty plea in the Bronx of ethics charges to come after me criminally. And people say to me, well, did you do something wrong? Yeah, it was ethical and civil violations. But when the federal government wants you, they can take ethical and civil violations and regulatory violations, and they can turn them criminal, and they can send you to prison. And in my case, I was going to trial. I was only actually 5 days from going to trial, and my judge decided he was going to, this guy knows the book better than I do.
I'm telling
and
you.
he was, the judge basically said he's going to, disqualify my lawyers. And at that point, I had already lost $3.5 million in legal fees.
Jesus.
And I said it's enough. I quit, and I took a plea, and I was sent to prison for 4 years. I served 3 years and 11 days, and it was a learning experience. I think the biggest thing come out of it for me was the fact that prosecutors, as we know them, they're great guys. They're good guys. They're guys that do God's work. They're guys that, they separate the good from evil. But I can tell you, and I don't think anybody that read my book would understand it better than watching what happened in Washington, D.C. with President Trump over the last 4 years. Nobody understands it better than he does now. The prosecutors aren't always the good guys. They're political. They're vindictive. They target. They suborn perjury. They lie. They deceive. They do things that they're not supposed to do. And if any one of us, any cop listening to this show, if you did what some of these prosecutors did, you would go to prison.
Yep.
I remember being a young cop in the borough north of Manhattan.
Go ahead, Tommy. You can talk
that's all
about
right.
it. He's very
And I
proud
remember
of his Bronx time.
One of my first cases I was ever on was when Kevin Gillespie was killed. He killed in the 4-6. And I happened to be the guy that was secured one of the prisoners in the cells. And then we went forward to trial and whatnot. And I remember being, and Jimmy Duggan, he was a squad guy. He was the second whip sergeant up there. Great guy, retired now. Jimmy, if you're listening. He grabbed me on the side and said, look, here's the deal. You're going to, it was the U.S. Attorney's Office had the case. And he said, while you're in the U.S. Attorney's Office, say nothing. Even though you're sitting next to another cop, say nothing in that office. Because I would not doubt if there's some sort of listening device in there to get you jammed up. And I was 23, 24 years old. I was 95, I think Gillespie was killed. Young kid, no. He said, why would they do that? He said, listen, when you speak to the prosecutor in the office, you speak to them honestly. When they leave, say nothing. Do not talk to the guy next to you. Don't take no. They're watching. I'm telling you right now, they're watching, and that resonated forever.
You know what, Tom? When I was my last 3-4 years in the NYPD before I went to correction, before I took over Rikers, I was in the DEA task force. So the only prosecutors I knew, most of the prosecutors were feds. Phenomenal. Some of the best prosecutors, U.S. attorneys that I've ever known, that I'm still friends with. We lived together. We worked 18 hours a day. We traveled together. We sat in hotel rooms, listening to wiretaps and looking at surveillance. That's the kind of guys that I thought they all were until I was targeted.
Oh, God.
And then it was different. And when you become the target and you see, the overreach, what they can do. And, the unfortunate thing is, and I think by now, anybody realizes, especially guys on the job, you realize that at the end of the day, you are a better fish to catch than anybody else.
Absolutely.
You're a better fish. You could be a low-level cop, but you're a cop. And if they catch you doing something wrong, you're done.
Your front page.
Jimmy
and you're-
from Detroit.
Your front page, and there's a promotion
Yes.
there for them. And that's all they really
and,
need.
and the unfortunate thing is, and look, I'm not saying it's all of them. I'm not saying it's all of them. But I'm telling you,
There's
there
enough
are
of them.
guys out there that they're not doing what the job is supposed to do. You're supposed to enforce the law. You're not supposed to break the law to enforce it. They're supposed to enforce the law. They're supposed to follow the law, and they're supposed to look for justice. A lot of it for them is not about justice. It's about the win. It's about the victory. It's about the promotion. That's what it's about, and it's wrong.
This is where the book, and I'm telling you, it was like the cloud parted, because everything he said, and you can ask my wife, this is not blowing smoke up your ass. This is legitimate.
Well,
like,
he wrote the book, so he should be saying the same stuff now, Josh.
Well, my take from it, and it might not even be what he intended. There was a couple of things from it. First thing, you talk about criminal justice reform, and when you say criminal justice reform, the average person on the street with no law enforcement experience, they automatically go to law enforcement, the cops. Criminal justice reform is the police. Well, no, criminal justice is not just the police. It's the police, it's the courts, and it's the jails.
it's the whole process.
You know, it's the whole thing. And what's missed by a lot of people because they don't see it, and even on like our level, you even see that kind of strong arming and like bleeding people dry, especially on the lower level. You can even go down to traffic court. Oh, you got a 5-point speeding summons. Well, if you want to plead not guilty, we're going to go to trial. I can promise you the prosecutor is going to ask for the maximum, which
Right.
is going to be the, suspension of license, this and that. Or you could pay this $500 fine, plead guilty to unsafe operation,
And have 3
we can
points.
wrap this up today.
Yeah.
And you see it. I mean, ask my wife. That's why I have no interest
I
in
know.
going
I
to
can
court
relate,
because
Josh. I went to court for
get-
speeding. So.
I don't even want to know your stories. I've never had any interest in going to court because it's not about justice. It's a chess match, and like you said, these prosecutors. It's just how can we get this over with?
You know what the problem with this is, and this is, they do it at the traffic court level, they do it at the state level, they do it at the federal level. I'll give you a really good example. There was a guy that wound up going to prison. He was involved in the Jack Abramoff case, the lobbyist in Washington D.C.
Yep.
He was this guy. This guy was a kid. He was 22 years old, 23 years old. He was like the runner for Jack Abramoff. So if Jack Abramoff needed tickets to give some congressman to go to a show or to go to some game, go get the tickets.
He was a gopher.
Go get the ticket. He was a gopher, right? He did whatever Jack needed him to do. Jack gets arrested. They take a bunch of guys for conspiracy. The kid gets locked up for conspiracy. They bring him in, and they basically tell him, take a plea. You'll get a year, you'll get 18 months. But if you take a plea, you communicate, you cooperate, and you go about your business. He said, I didn't do anything. I had nothing to do with, money exchange. I didn't make any money. I worked for the company.
I got bagels. I brought bagels into the office.
I didn't do anything. And they told him, if you go to trial and you blow trial, we're going to ask for the max. Now, they offered him, I think it was somewhere between 6 months and 18 months. That's what they offered him. You ready? He goes to trial, he blows trial.
Uh-oh.
He goes for sentencing. You ready? They asked for 22 years.
Damn.
They walked into court, a United States attorney walked into court and said, they gave this pre-sentencing memorandum to the judge asking for 22 years in federal prison. And the judge actually, 20 years?
Did he cough? Did he cough?
Years or months, like 22 years. And I think it was a female judge made some comment like, that's a hell of a price to pay for exercising your constitutional right to go to trial. That's the reality.
Yeah.
You went to trial. You had the audacity to go to trial because you thought you were innocent. So now we're going to kill you.
That's the
We're
that
gonna
is-
Well, that's the chess game. They just want the W. They don't care how
That's
they get it.
100%.
They just want the
But
W.
what-
So if you take the plea bargain for 3 months, it's a W.
It's a
and we
win.
learned that,
But what did he did do?
He did nothing.
Did nothing.
The fact that he was involved with someone that was a bigger fish on the hook, they just wanted to show that
Wow.
we got every one of your guys.
And
That's
listen,
ridiculous.
and don't get me wrong. Listen, our court system, as fucked up as it is, it's still light years ahead of other countries. I get it, I understand. But when people are like, "Oh, we have this great court system," do we?
Yeah, okay.
When the vast majority of cases are solved or settled rather by plea agreement. Plea agreement that a lot of times the defendant is really just forced into because they either don't have the means, they don't have the connections, they don't have the money, they don't have the angle to fight it, so they end up pleading to something, and that settles it. Because if you look at a lot of the major cases in this country that go to trial, they're bungled. O.J. Casey Anthony, two perfect examples. I mean, they with a lot of the major cases that actually end up seeing trial become a circus and become
Booth has given me 3 minutes. All right. Well, just
last thing. I have one last thing,
make sure-
and then I promised Burke I'd ask a question
about
And then-
about Crown Royal.
we got you too.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
got you.
So,
Well,
so
the last thing with the book, which really resonated with me, again, having done corrections, I pretty much summed it up as empathy versus sympathy, something that you saw being on the other side of that, and the way COs, interact and treat their inmates. And I've always said it, and sometimes for my years that I did corrections, I actually took shit for it because people would say that I was soft, and in some cases, I really wasn't. Like when somebody needed to be shit on, they got shit on. But the overwhelming majority, and it even translates now to street side. Like I even tell guys, like you lock somebody up, you're taking their car, you're taking their weed, you're hitting them with a court case. If not, sending them to the county. You win. You win. You want. You don't need to shit on them.
You're done. Here's the problem, I think. And a lot of this is training. A lot of this is first-line supervision. First-line supervisors, when they're training new people, you got to make them understand you're not there to break someone. You're not there to kill them.
They're broken already.
You're there to, prosecute, enforce the law, abide by the law. You don't have to kill them. We live in this society today where, and it's, I got news for you, it's not only in correction and policing, general society, somebody picks up the newspaper and sees that, some kid burglarized a house, he should go to jail for life. Really, dude? Really, like life? Come
Right.
on. You got to have some common sense. And I think we lost a lot of that.
Yeah. Are you going to ask the Crown Royal?
No, that's if we have time for that. But I'm going to make a quick point. You did a photo book, a 9/11 photo book. Geez, was it
In the line
2000,
of
2003? Yeah. And we were at the. So I work for Johnny Moynihan.
Oh, okay.
Great
night.
dude. I had some issues. I got a shooting where I worked, which we won't talk about, and I was offered to leave any way you want to go, and I wouldn't leave him because he's a boss that you stay with. Like Scanlon said, pick a command, pick a detail. I said, I'm right here. I'm working a 4/6 anti-crime. Moynihan's my guy. I'm not leaving him. We go to the book signing event, and Kevin Spellman, Spike, love him to death. Love him to death. Did some work on his case when I was doing PI work. So we got the book, and we're going up and getting the book signed and whatnot. And then Spellman goes to the bathroom, and I take his book, and there's this thing going around that apparently he met a woman, and in the middle of hanging out with her, her wig came off, and this. Like cops do, every bathroom and every command and every freaking courthouse, Spike loves ball chicks. So Spellman goes to the bathroom, and I grab his book, and I go up to the commissioner, and I said, give him a quick look. I said, can you do me a favor? Can you sign this book? But it's a little unconventional. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, blah, 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 blah. Can you sign it? Spike loves ball chicks. And I swear on my kids, Spike loves ball chicks, Bernie Kerik. I go back to the table. Spellman comes back and he grabs his book. He's about to go up to get it signed. I go, I already took care of it. And he opens it up and he's like, his jaw hits the ground. Now no one knew what I was doing. I just grabbed the book and walked out because I already had my book signed. And it was a very funny it's more of a connection to the human being that you are.
A cop
and
is
the-
a cop
and the-
is a cop.
Exactly. Okay. Like I don't know how many other commissioners of the greatest police department in the world would entertain that of someone that you didn't
None.
know. None.
Probably none.
None. But I think you knew Spike, and when I mentioned his name, there was a glistening in your eye of recognition, and may have recognized that. I may have read that on a bathroom wall somewhere, and actually signed the book Spike Loves Bull Chicks, and it's one of my favorite Bernie Kerik stories ever. Last thing before we wrap it up is Crown Royal. No, you got nothing.
Well, listen, I promised Burke, and I'm not even going to mess it up.
No.
All right, because this is
only
Burke,
if
the
we're
guy that-
only if we're allowed to speak about it in public.
We can speak about it in public. Here it says. So Burke wanted me to tell you. He goes, there is a gap between the average street cop and a good one. There is even a bigger gap between being a good one and a great one. He wanted me to relate it. You were great. And then he said, make sure he tells the Crown Royal story. I have no idea. Please don't shoot the messenger if that's a story.
I don't know if the story can be told here, but
I'm not sure.
oh, even better. So now we've done our job.
And we can't
get in trouble.
I asked the question. I can't get
thought-
yelled
I
at.
Thought, I thought you were going to ask about his knapsack, his backpack.
Oh no! Listen, he loves that backpack. He loves that backpack.
You know,
Dude, he was
came
so.
up-
You don't understand. You don't understand
came
when
to
he
my
gave it to
office.
him. He's,
He came to my office a couple times, and I noticed every time he came over, he had this thing he was carrying his stuff in, and it was
it
like
wasn't even really a backpack.
I don't know what it was. It was
It's like a wall bounce bag.
It was like his wife's beach bag or something. I don't know what it was. I said, so the second or third time he came over, he's carrying the same bag. And I said, I feel bad for this guy. I went upstairs.
But he put some police pins on it. He made it look nice.
I went upstairs. I got a tactical bag.
Oh,
I come
God.
down and I said, dude, you need to, here, take this.
Step up your bag game.
Yeah. So the next time I saw him, he actually had it.
Dude, he's very proud. He's very proud of that
He's
bag.
the
And
best. I'm going to tell you something. He's a good guy, and he's somebody that he has done so much. Him and Danny DeValle have done so much for cops, not only in this state, not only in New York, but all over this country. I mean, they've really, really done phenomenal work for the men and women in law enforcement all over the nation, and they deserve a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
So guys, thank you.
Awesome.
Commissioner,
Guys,
thank
what's his name? Footbear or something? What do you call him?
what?
What?
Oh, Einstein?
Einstein? Footbear?
Einstein, he can't be
Polar
Panda.
bear?
Panda's for
Oh.
Burke Show.
All right, Einstein, you're out. Give me. We're done?
6 minutes.
If you are searching for a doctor that truly cares about your overall health and well-being, contact Dr. Alex at Tri-State Health and Wellness. For more than 11 years, Dr. Alex has been treating law enforcement professionals and their families while focusing on one-on-one care so you never feel rushed. All necessary testing can be conducted during your visit, and they feature flexible hours and appointments to accommodate alternating work schedules. Tri-State Health and Wellness is conveniently located in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Contact Dr. Alex today by visiting www.bluetristate.com. Mortgages for everyday heroes. From Michelle Hendershot and Homebridge Financial Services. If you're looking to purchase a home or refinance an existing mortgage, Michelle Hendershot can assist you every step of the way. With over 10 years of experience assisting law enforcement officers with their dream of owning a home, the choice is simple. Contact Michelle Hendershot today. Visit www.mortgagesforblue.com. Are you tired of sleeping alone each night? Feeling sluggish during the day? Is your snoring keeping your spouse awake at night? If you find yourself spending too much time on the couch, maybe it's time to visit Dr. Michael Doblin of At Home Sleep Solutions. Dr. Doblin is the preferred sleep apnea doctor of New Jersey's law enforcement officers. With the help of a custom-fitted oral device, you can finally say goodbye to noisy, antiquated sleep apnea machines. For more information and to schedule an appointment today, contact Dr. Michael Doblin. Visit www.bluesnore.com. Moment of Silence, Inc., along with Blue Suicide, is a nonprofit organization founded to support and raise awareness about the epidemic of suicides amongst law enforcement, military personnel, and first responders. For more information on how you can help, visit momentofsilenceinc.org. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or a certified used vehicle, then visit Fetty Auto Group, located at the junction of Route 46 and Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey. Fetty Auto Group stands shoulder to shoulder with the men and women in blue. Stop by and ask for Troy Mall and ask about the offers for first responders. For more information, visit FettyAuto.com. That's FetteAuto.com. The Blue Magazine, the law enforcement publication by law enforcement professionals for the men and women of law enforcement. The unfiltered voice of law enforcement. TheBlueMagazine.com. Are you patrolling with the pig? If not, you're doing it wrong. Check out all the newest swine swag at ProudPig.blue. They are dirty by design. Check it out now. Visit www.proudpig.blue for all your swine swag. Visit www.proudpig.blue. Resumes by Joe. Owned and operated by retired NYPD second grade detective Joe Federa. With over 20 years of professional resume writing experience and focusing on translating what we do as cops into language that the corporate world can appreciate. We put an emphasis on ensuring that your cover letter and resume will be best received by the applicant tracking system used by most companies today. Check out our website at www.resumesbyjoe.com or call Joe directly at 347-992-4523. Don't forget to ask about the 50% discount for BBO members and most unions across the country. Give us the job of helping you get the job. Contact Resumes by Joe today. If you're a member of the law enforcement profession and are looking to establish long-lasting business relationships with businesses that are blue-friendly, it's time to visit visitblue.com. Visitblue.com features some of the best doctors, lawyers, realtors, as well as other service providers, such as home improvement and financial services. If you are looking for reliable, trustworthy service providers, visit visitblue.com. That's www.visitblue.com. Founded in 2014 by retired NYPD police officer Michael Burke, Brothers Before Others is a national 501c3 law enforcement charity comprised solely of both sworn and retired police officers. Since their inception, Brothers Before Others has sent floral arrangements to the services of all line-of-duty deaths regardless of where in the country they occur, having spent over $350,000 to date. While the National Flower Fund remains their cornerstone, their benevolence has since grown well beyond that, even into the civilian world. For more information on how to get involved or to donate, visit brothersbeforeothers.org, or you can visit their public forums on all social media platforms by searching Brothers Before Others. Founded in 2016 by professional musician Neil Giraldo, 3-Chord Bourbon has developed a process that is defined as the perfectly tuned taste, blending carefully selected whiskey bourbon and rye whiskey stocks from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. Designed to be enjoyed with friends and family, 3-Chord Bourbon will leave you with the same feeling you experience after hearing that perfect song. You'll know their whiskeys are right from the very first sip. For more information on 3-Chord Bourbon and available merchandise, visit 3chordbourbon.com. Line of Duty Cigars, owned and operated by retired NYPD Detective Tom Werther. Visit lineofdutycigars.com for our handmade Nicaraguan cigars, custom ashtrays, custom humidors, and custom flask sets. Also, when you place an order, you choose the law enforcement, first responder, or veteran charity, and Line of Duty Cigars donates 10% to that organization. Planning a special event? Contact us today. Visit www.lineofdutycigars.com. And now, back to the Blue Room Podcast on the BlueBroadcastNetwork.com. If you are searching for a doctor that truly cares about your overall health and well-being, contact Dr. Alex at Tri-State Health and Wellness. For more than 11 years, Dr. Alex has been treating law enforcement professionals and their families while focusing on one-on-one care so you never feel rushed. All necessary testing can be conducted during your visit, and they feature flexible hours and appointments to accommodate alternating work schedules. Tri-State Health and Wellness is conveniently located in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Contact Dr. Alex today by visiting www.bluetristate.com. Mortgages for everyday heroes. From Michelle Hendershot and Homebridge Financial Services. If you're looking to purchase a home or refinance an existing mortgage, Michelle Hendershot can assist you every step of the way. With over 10 years of experience assisting law enforcement officers with their dream of owning a home, the choice is simple. Contact Michelle Hendershot today. Visit www.mortgagesforblue.com. Are you tired of sleeping alone each night? Feeling sluggish during the day? Is your snoring keeping your spouse awake at night? If you find yourself spending too much time on the couch, maybe it's time to visit Dr. Michael Doblin of At Home Sleep Solutions. Dr. Doblin is the preferred sleep apnea doctor of New Jersey's law enforcement officers. With the help of a custom-fitted oral device, you can finally say goodbye to noisy, antiquated sleep apnea machines. For more information and to schedule an appointment today, contact Dr. Michael Doblin. Visit www.bluesnore.com. Moment to Silence, Inc., along with Blue Suicide, is a nonprofit organization founded to support and raise awareness about the epidemic of suicides amongst law enforcement, military personnel, and first responders. For more information on how you can help, visit momentofsilenceinc.org. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or a certified used vehicle, then visit Fetty Auto Group, located at the junction of Route 46 and Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey. Fetty Auto Group stands shoulder to shoulder with the men and women in blue. Stop by and ask for Troy Mall and ask about the offers for first responders. For more information, visit FettyAuto.com. That's FettyAuto.com. The Blue Magazine, the law enforcement publication by law enforcement professionals for the men and women of law enforcement. The unfiltered voice of law enforcement. TheBlueMagazine.com. Are you patrolling with the pig? If not, you're doing it wrong. Check out all the newest swine swag at ProudPig.blue. They are dirty by design. Check it out now. Visit www.proudpig.blue for all your swine swag. Visit www.proudpig.blue. Resumes by Joe. Owned and operated by retired NYPD second grade detective Joe Federa. With over 20 years of professional resume writing experience and focusing on translating what we do as cops into language that the corporate world can appreciate. We put an emphasis on ensuring that your cover letter and resume will be best received by the applicant tracking system used by most companies today. Check out our website at www.resumesbyjoe.com or call Joe directly at 347-992-4523. Don't forget to ask about the 50% discount for BBO members and most unions across the country. Give us the job of helping you get the job. Contact Resumes by Joe today. If you're a member of the law enforcement profession and are looking to establish long-lasting business relationships with businesses that are blue-friendly, it's time to visit visitblue.com. Visitblue.com features some of the best doctors, lawyers, realtors, as well as other service providers, such as home improvement and financial services. If you are looking for reliable, trustworthy service providers, visit visitblue.com. That's www.visitblue.com. Founded in 2014 by retired NYPD police officer Michael Burke, Brothers Before Others is a national 501c3 law enforcement charity comprised solely of both sworn and retired police officers. Since their inception, Brothers Before Others has sent floral arrangements to the services of all line-of-duty deaths regardless of where in the country they occur, having spent over $350,000 to date, while the National National Flower Fund remains their cornerstone, their benevolence has since grown well beyond that, even into the civilian world. For more information on how to get involved or to donate, visit brothersbeforeothers.org, or you can visit their public forums on all social media platforms by searching Brothers Before Others. Founded in 2016 by professional musician Neil Giraldo, 3-Chord Bourbon has developed a process that is defined as the perfectly tuned taste, blending carefully selected whiskey bourbon and rye whiskey stocks from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. Designed to be enjoyed with friends and family, 3-Chord Bourbon will leave you with the same feeling you experience after hearing that perfect song. You'll know their whiskeys are right from the very first sip. For more information on 3-Chord Bourbon and available merchandise, visit 3chordbourbon.com. Line of Duty Cigars, owned and operated by retired NYPD Detective Tom Werther. Visit lineofdutycigars.com for our handmade Nicaraguan cigars, custom ashtrays, custom humidors, and custom flask sets. Also, when you place an order, you choose a law enforcement, first responder, or veteran charity, and Line of Duty Cigars donates 10% to that organization. Planning a special event? Contact us today. Visit www.lineofdutycigars.com. And now, back to the Blue Room Podcast on the BlueBroadcastNetwork.com.
Hello, are we back?
And we're back.
We are back.
Wow, that's loud.
Christian taking the lead on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like my little buddy over there.
How are you doing, Josh? Good?
Good. How are you?
Great
I'm
first
good.
segment.
I love the shrimps.
Commissioner on point as always. Very grateful that he came in tonight and could talk with us. And as always, we always give our guests, we say, hey, 20, 30 minutes, whatever you can do. Hour and 5 minutes later, he's still here. Obviously, he was very comfortable in the space, which is awesome.
It goes to what you were talking about when he signed that book. I mean, a cop is a cop is a cop. And I was talking to Danny before, and I said this is what happens a lot of times. You hear an interview, podcast or whatever, and it's the standard. They tell you, I'll give you 15, 20 minutes. I mean, that's the standard appearance. And then they realize it's sitting around bullshitting with cops, and it ends up being an hour 15. Like Chief Craig was an hour 15, right? And he was giving us 15 minutes coming in the door.
Spike loves bull chicks. True story.
I can't.
True story. We don't know the Crown Royal story. Obviously, we have to get it from Burke.
At least we asked. At least we asked.
We did our job. Job.
Correct.
Let's go. We got a couple of these things to get through. Governor Murphy, fuck that guy. Blah, 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 Blasio, can eat a dick. I'm going to pass that one over.
What?
All right. Yeah. No, he can. He can. Totally can eat a dick. All right. Our next guest, NYPD Lieutenant Kevin Darcy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you,
Did
guys.
did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, that's me.
Kevin with a K, Darcy with a D. Yeah.
The only guy that never thought he was going to follow up the former police commissioner. So here I am.
Well, that's good stuff.
Surprise.
So, are you a founding member, or
Yep,
did you
that's
come on
true.
after us? So, founding member of Fund the First, which, strangely enough, a couple of weeks ago, when we did the show, I do a lot of research and whatnot for the writing stuff here, and then I saw something on Facebook for Fund the First. No one sent me anything. I just kind of popped up, and I did a little research, and then we spoke about it on the show. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and then a mutual friend of ours, Don Morgan, reached out and said, hey, I have a friend, a lieutenant on the job still. He's got this company. He's part of a company called Fund the First. And I stopped him right there. I said, oh, he heard the show last night? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, we actually spoke about that company last night on the show. And he said, why? I said, because I saw it on Facebook and I researched it and did a little digging, and I thought it was a great concept. I said, how do you know him? He said, oh, he's a friend of mine. And then obviously we had a conversation. We have mutual friends. It was just a great coincidence that the day after that we spoke about your show unsolicited, that this connection was made. So why don't you tell us about what Fund the First is?
Yep.
And then I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions that might you feel uncomfortable.
Oh, God.
There you go.
We'll see where it goes.
Tommy, I appreciate it. Josh, I appreciate it. And that was a great conversation we had. Donnie, actually, I worked for him technically 14, 15 years ago. And I hit him up randomly just because I wanted to talk to whoever was involved with Line Duty Cigars. I follow you on Facebook. And lo and behold, I talked to you, and I apologized up front. I said, listen, this is going to be a short story long. And I gave you the background on Fund the First, and you were like, hey, we just talked about them. So, I want you to come in. You didn't tell me I was going to follow up, former police commissioner,
Listen,
who's a
Minor
great guy.
details.
Yeah,
Minor details.
Minor. So,
if nothing else, we with this show and Danny, Dan DeValle and Mike and Josh over at BBO are, if nothing else, when you hear the term benevolence, it pours out of their blood
Yeah.
to be able to share and what we do and to help other like-minded individuals that have companies and especially cops to be able to say, hey, this is a really great thing. How can we help you?
thank you.
So this
No, I
is
appreciate
dynamite.
that. I appreciate that, and Fund the First feel the same way. But a couple years ago, Bob Garland, who's the president, he's a co-founder with myself. He came to me and John Eichhorn, who's a police officer down in New Smyrna. He's actually a SWAT canine handler, and Bob's a detective in the NYPD. And he came to us. He said, "Listen, there's a massive need for us in the crowdfunding space. What can we do? How can we do something?" And we started doing our research, and we saw a lot of duplicate campaigns. We saw a lot of stolen campaigns, stolen valor, campaigns that really didn't make that much sense. A lot of frauds, a lot of scams within the crowdfunding space. And we wanted to build a crowdfunding network for first responders. And then we took it a step further and we said, we want to build a verified crowdfunding platform for first responders. So about 2 years ago, we started doing some research. And unfortunately, right around December of 2019, we had a horrible story right here in New Jersey. Detective Joseph Seals, he was killed right before Christmas. There was actually six campaigns on GoFundMe totaling $800,000, and not $1 was authorized by the family. Listen, it's a tragedy. It's another tragedy to figure out that so many people are contributing to this horrible thing that happened, and it's not going to the family. So we kicked into gear a little more. We ended up talking to ID.me, great company. We partnered with them. They handle the bulk of our verification process, so that as the donor, that 100% this money is going to a verified first responder, police, fire, military, obviously military.
So they have to go through ID Me
So
first?
they come to our platform. Anyone can host a campaign on our platform, but the beneficiary has to be a verified first responder or military serviceman.
And guys, if any of you have not heard of ID Me or not part of it, I'll tell you right now, you're missing out because they do offer discounts with other companies through their platform. So it's legit. You have to show that you're verified. That you're a verified law enforcement, first responder, military. It's a great platform because a lot of companies out there offer discounts, and they want to offer discounts to first responders and military, but there's only one way to prove that you're actually there. And honestly, there's ways around to scam that, but it's very few and far between. It is the most reliable source to actually prove that you are who you are. ID Me is dynamite.
They are second to none, and there is no going around it. They do a full social sweep. They're unbelievable. They have over 25 million users, and they're great. So we partnered with them. We did a lot more building on the site, and after about 2 years, we finally launched July 22nd. So we've been live for 6 months and just about a week, and honestly, it's been tremendous. We've had about 125 campaigns, and we've raised over $850,000 for people that really
6
need
months,
it.
as in 2020?
2020, July 22nd.
Oh, I thought you guys were 19.
No.
So we were talking earlier. It was like, a year and a half, 800. That's impressive.
Yeah.
But you guys raised over $500,000, more than $750,000 in less than 6 months.
It's been great.
Wow.
Listen, we
That's dynamite.
got so much more work to do, and people like you guys are helping us out big time, and I appreciate that. We want to let everyone know that Fund the First is there for first responders and military and their families, both active and retired. We're here. Listen, there's other crowdfunding platforms out there, but none of them verify that you are a first responder, and none of them care as much as we do about the first responder and the military community.
It's awesome.
So who determines whether a campaign can be launched? Do they folks apply for it, and then you guys have a board or something that says, or as long as they're ID Me verified, you can get that going?
Anyone can go to our site, fundthefirst.com. We're also on all social medias at Fund the First. Anyone can host a campaign. Anyone as a first responder can also host a campaign. But like I said, the beneficiary has to be a verified member of the first responder community. So they'll come on our platform, they'll sign up, start the campaign, and then they'll get a verification process through ID.me. It's seamless. It takes 2 seconds. It's just like any other crowdfunding, except, like I said, everyone that comes to that platform to donate knows it's 100% who they're saying they are.
So what if someone is not someone that wants to host a campaign is not ID.me verified, but wants to raise funds for a someone that is first responder,
Or like a family member or something
can
like
they,
that.
Can
One-
they do that? Like
Yep.
my brother's a iron worker, but he wants to help me out.
Yep.
Like
Great question.
that happens.
Absolutely. So it's a great question. And like I said, the beneficiary of the campaign has to be a verified member. So they'll receive an email from Fund the First saying, there's been a campaign in your name, verify. So you'll click the link, you'll verify through ID.me, and then that will go live. So the campaign actually will not go live for 24 hours until you verify as a first responder or a military serviceman.
So is there a predetermined length of time for each campaign, or can you pick 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
As long as you want, you can be open. There's no penalties for the amount you want to raise. Say you want to raise 20,000, you only raise 10, or you raise over. We don't penalize that whatsoever.
So if they have a goal of 30 and you only raise 20, they get their
get-
20.
exactly.
And there's also,
Exactly.
I mean, obviously there must be some sort of a percentage wise, because you guys have costs.
5%.
So 5%. So for every $100 that's raised, $95 goes to the
Correct.
person that you're actually raising money for.
To the verified first
Which,
responder.
by the way, is a much higher number than a lot of other campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
You probably remember this. There was two people that ran a campaign 2 years ago, and they raised like 800 grand for the homeless veteran.
Oh
and it was
shit!
all,
Yeah.
Right, and they raised a ton of money for this guy. They got locked up, actually. They got locked up. When you probably, I'm sure you heard of it too, and that kind of takes that away. Well, it lessens the risk that that's actually going to happen.
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason we're here. I mean, listen, that was a homeless, retired, veteran, who got scammed out of a ton of money. It was a great story. It really was. I mean, they did a good job of explaining who needs this money. And a lot of people came, strangers, they came on the platform, and they raised a lot of money. And unfortunately, it didn't go to him. That can't happen with us. It's great. We have a lot of, steps that make sure that doesn't happen. And that's why we built this company.
So the donors are guaranteed that the money, well, as much as a guarantee as you can give, that the money is going to the recipient because they've registered with ID.me.
Well, not only that, we also have a campaign director. So we actually vet personally every single campaign that comes on the platform. Like I said before, it doesn't go live for 24 hours. We reach out to these people. We make sure that everything's right, their story's good. We want to make sure they have a successful campaign. And then, we make sure that it aligns with what they're asking for. And then we also have an email, which is frauds@fundthefirst. So if anyone sees anything that really doesn't make any sense, they can contact us and we'll immediately pause the campaign. And if it's not what it's supposed to be, all the money goes back to the contributor.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
I typically do most of the writing for the show the day of, and earlier today.
You don't say.
No, I don't. No, I just say. I just say.
And I bother him through all of it too, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so much fun
Yeah,
because
like
he's
seven-
writing. I
seven
keep calling him,
times.
Tom, it's the last time, I swear.
It was today was brutal. Today was brutal. My son came in around lunchtime, around 12 o'clock or whatever, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I showed him. This is fucking as legit as it gets. He's 11 years old, and I was telling him what he was doing. He's like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." He's like, "Well, how do you make sure the money goes? Like, how do you start a campaign?" So I said, "Let's figure it out." And we went through the stages right up until the point where I had to register for it. And the 11-year-old was like, "Wow, that's really good. I think that's probably going to work for a kid that he's freaking 11."
Is
So
he
why
looking
don't
for a job or?
Yeah, he works for Line of Duty Cigars. He's busy.
How much do you pay him, Tommy?
He gets $10 an hour.
If you're listening, give me a handwritten on this because I feel union violation here.
He gets. No,
Do you need a delegate? Reach
no,
out to me.
He is paid $10 an hour, but he only gets 9 because you have to pay the man. You got to pay your taxes.
Okay.
So that's the way it is. That's a lesson he needs to learn.
How many hours does he work before he gets a break?
No breaks.
All right.
Yeah,
give me a handwritten on that.
How many hours a week he works?
No, that's my factor is in Indonesia.
Listen,
He-
I want to
he works all day
I want to
long.
unionize your labor. Send him my way.
So, Kevin, why don't you walk us through from point A? So I wake up today and I want to raise money for Josh, who needs a heart transplant because it's going to burst out of his freaking
Listen,
chest.
that's not even a joke. We're going to get back to that, and you're going to feel bad because my numbers are all over the fucking place.
I wasn't joking.
I'm all screwed up.
You need to take a step back and have a drink and relax.
I'm all
So
screwed
why
up.
don't you walk us through the process from
Making fun of
the
my heart
time
problem.
the time that someone says, you know what,
Disabilities
I need
Act
to raise
violation.
money. I'm not a member of Fund the First. I'm not a member of Fund the First, but I want to be. Walk me through the process from I never heard of you guys, to I'm actually launching a campaign.
Yep. So anyone can come on. They host a campaign, like you said, for Josh, and they fill out their information. They want to be the campaign host, and they'll fill out your information too as the beneficiary. So you'll get an automatic email, and then in that 24-hour period, not only will you have to register and get an ID.me account, but we'll also personally reach out to you, whether it's by phone or email, just to make sure everything's fine, and any questions you have to come to us. And then once you verify who you are, the campaign will be set live by us, and then the campaign goes, and you start raising money.
Oh, so if someone says, "Hey, I'm raising money for so and so," and then you reach out to so and so, and they're like, "I don't even know this person. I'm fine. I'm healthy."
No, well,
then you're like, "Well, pump the brakes."
Exactly. I mean, that's why we're here. We don't want any frauds. We don't want any scams. We don't want duplicate campaigns. We don't want to hear any of the nonsense that's been associated with crowdfunding in the past. We don't want any of that. We just want to support the first responder and military community and let it be verified.
Very few fundraisers do that, actually.
It's ridiculous.
That should be an example for anyone.
I should do a Pizza fundraiser.
So I mean, like in the case you use SEALs, you brought that up. So then obviously, when the recipient is the family of the MOS that's deceased, I mean, obviously the people that are donating, and the confidence comes from the fact that you've contacted the family then, because obviously no one's going to get an ID.me account. The MOS is deceased. So I guess the comfort level then comes from the fact that you guys have vetted the family.
It's one of probably 5 steps that we have to make sure that it's unlike, and like he said, it's unlike any other service that's out there. So it's unique. It's first to market, yeah. But listen, at the end of the day, we're helping us. We're helping first responders and military, and it's awesome. Honestly, I love it.
I'm trying to get back on the. I didn't have the website up while we were doing the first piece.
Chris already put it in the comments.
Oh,
Chris, listen, Chris is on it, dude. He's
really.
What?
Yeah, but do you really trust Christian to represent what we're doing
tonight?
I'm looking at it.
See, he's looking at it. Chris is on it, bro. Listen, he's on point. He's on point now.
Thank you, Chris.
And he's continued sobriety. Congratulations, Chris.
So I will. I see on my phone here that Christine Lem has chimed in. Hey, Christine, how are you? I see Mike Freed, obviously. Matt McLaughlin.
Refresh your
Matt.
page.
Matt's a veteran. Christine is the widow of Joe Lem, veteran and NYPD detective, killed in Afghanistan.
Sergeant overseas. Thank you,
Yep.
ma'am.
Hope you guys are taking this all in. It's a great concept, great platform.
Thank you.
Amazing. And folks that and there's I don't know what the website is that you can actually check on the charities. It's like charitywatch.com or something, where you can see what the percentages that go. So if you want to donate to a charity, you can actually do a search and say what percentage goes there. And what you guys are saying is that 95% of every dollar goes to the event, to the fundraiser, which is phenomenal.
Yep.
Which is phenomenal. There's no, the overhead is so minimal. And honestly, when you think about it, most of these, if not all of them, every single transaction has got to be processed through a credit card processor, which is 3%. So when you factor that in, you can't get away from the 3%. So for every dollar, right, $3 goes to the credit card processor, which you can't help. So now you're down to 97. $2 goes.
What
to
are you, Joe Biden? Say that again. For every dollar, $3 goes to the
credit card processor.
Huh?
3% for every dollar. Oh, what did I say? 97.
Yeah, you sound like Joe Biden.
I guess I'm saying for every 100.
Tommy, let's try this again.
For every 100.
He sounds like Joe Biden right now.
So for every $100, $3 goes to the credit card processor. That leaves 97.
There you go.
$2 goes to the business platform that covers what little overhead they have, and then $95 goes to the person that you're raising money for,
which is awesome.
Which is amazing. That's just. That's unheard of.
Yep.
When it's that the percentages are just work in that favor.
And what's really great is companies like yours and other nonprofits out there that support, the first responder and the military community. They can come on our platform also and do whatever they need to do to raise money for, like I said, the first responder and military community. We'll let that go. Absolutely. Listen, there's small departments out there that need equipment. There's people that need help. There's medical facilities that need PPE. There's firehouses that need oxygen equipment. It's
so basically,
crazy.
anyone can start a fundraiser for anything that falls within the parameters of law enforcement, first responders, military, and medical field. So if you're
Absolutely.
a 25-man department in Okefenokee, Washington, and you guys need boots, or you need
Is that really a place?
there might be. I just made that up.
Probably is.
Or vests, right? A ballistic vest.
Yep.
You can start a thing. And it's not just folks in your community. There's going to be other people say, "Whoa, you guys don't have this," and you guys can raise the money for whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, you're a cop. You understand how it is. There's nothing worse than working with old equipment or expired equipment. Imagine, having a vest that's 5 years, expired and stuff like that. And municipalities, they just don't have the money for it. You can come on Fund the First and you can raise money, and we can figure out how to get you what you need. And listen, I'd love to be there to hand deliver it, honestly. So it's great. We're hoping that more people understand what we're doing, what we're trying to do. And we want to go coast to coast with it.
Well, it's very simple. It's funny you say that hand delivering part. So BBO, Brothers Before Others, which is half of the charity that owns what we do here, they're very hands-on with the delivering. Flowers going to every line of duty death, and and they don't just raise money just for law enforcement. They raise money where they feel money needs to be raised, and the big thing that resonates into them and what you're saying is that they want to physically hand deliver it. It's one thing to get something in the mail, but when someone's in front of you and goes, here's your 3-chord, here's your 3-chord Costa. And I know what you're saying, because I handwrite notes, and you've actually often have said...
Patty Donahue, a very handsome gentleman, by the way.
Very
Patty
handsome,
Donahue.
very handsome.
It also does the same thing. It's a lost art, and we really feel strongly about that.
Of hand delivering.
Hand delivering, handwriting notes. Tommy hit the nail on the head. There is a difference. Anybody can cut a check and send a check in the mail. It means something different than, when you go to somebody, you shake their hand, you look them in the eye and say, listen, anything you need, you come to us.
Josh, I couldn't agree more. 2 Fridays ago, it was really awesome. We did a campaign for 2 police officers who shot in the line of duty. Queens, the 105 Precinct 1, who actually worked for me, and a nonprofit organization called LEO Weekend, Austin Glickman, really awesome dude. He ended up hosting a campaign. His nonprofit was the host, the beneficiary with the 2 police officers, and we raised about $52,000 to $53,000.
Wow.
I mean, it was like that. It was great, really successful. We hand delivered the check to their house, and it was awesome. It was great to see them. I mean, healthy with their kids, with their wives. And we showed up with LEO Weekend. The 3 members of the board showed up. We hand delivered a big old check, and it was great. You know what? And we want to do that as much as we can, because we want other people to understand this isn't just a business. We're first responders. This was built by first responders, literally for first responders. So we're going to do that as much as we can. We've hand delivered checks all the way out to California. We've done Jackson, Mississippi. Any opportunity that we have to be involved and continue that relationship moving forward, we're in.
And actually, I think Kevin... I think he's better looking than Pat Donahue and Dan Hussey together, and younger. I'm just saying, look at that chin.
Well, listen,
dude, look at the chin. Look at
I'm
the chin.
more on
I'm
the
not
hair.
saying anything
Look at the
about
chin.
this. So.
Dude.
I'm more on the hair. He has. All right, so here we go.
BBO calendar.
Let's break this down.
2022.
Kevin, we're going to talk about you like you're not here.
I'd appreciate it.
So-
if I wasn't
so-
here at this point.
The hair is definitely better than Pat Donahue's.
Okay.
The chin is definitely better than Hussey's.
That's
I mean,
chiseled.
yeah,
That's a chiseled chin.
Solid
That's
chin.
right there.
I
got
think.
that going.
I mean, all together, yeah, dude. It's. We'll have a discussion later.
All right,
but I can tell you right now that both of them are in trouble. Listen, Dan Hussey's eyes get me. I can't look.
Might be our best looking guest yet. I'm just saying.
You ever hear? What was it? It was Jamie Foxx, right? Who did the routine on Prince? And he said you just can't look him in the eyes. I mean, that's how I am with Dan Hussey. Like you just can't look him in the eyes because he's a pretty man. Oh shit, he's a pretty man. Like I'm not ashamed.
Very good looking man.
Yeah, but yeah, no.
But he's old and broken down. This guy's like fucking 30.
I
I'll
mean,
take it. I'll take
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
I'll take
the
it.
only person that looked him in the eyes was me.
Well, I know, and you were googly all for the rest
No,
of the
I
show.
wasn't. No, I wasn't, bro.
All right. So what's the website?
It's fundthefirst.com, and all of our social media is at fundthefirst.
Fundthefirst.com. At Fund the First.
Yep,
Social
absolutely.
media. So it's a whether
So
it's
you're gonna let him go without asking any questions about active law enforcement and where we're going and
No,
where it's
no,
heading.
no. He's sticking around for some of the rest of the show.
Oh shit!
So
He's
wait,
here for the rest of the show.
You're gonna let him off the hook like
So,
that?
No.
so
No, no,
you're
no.
on Twitter and on Facebook as well?
We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Snapchat.
No. We're going to finish the show off with a couple of stories that we're going to talk, and we're going to have conversations about this. Well, make it happy.
You can't let him off the hook like that.
I'd appreciate
What's
it.
the,
You can't.
no, wait, listen.
I am active.
Listen,
He's active.
I am active.
And he did work on IAB, so, you
I
know,
did.
I'm just saying.
Oh wait,
just
what
saying,
the hell?
Just
You
saying.
Turn my phone off.
Just
These are all
saying.
facts.
Could have warned me about that.
So you worked in Midtown South
That is true.
with Frankie Beans, and did you work there? You worked there, obviously. Well, you knew Don Morgan
Donnie.
and Eric Boyan, Eric Miserable Boyan. Where'd you go from there?
I got promoted. I was in Borough Crime, Manhattan South, for a little bit, and then I got promoted to sergeant. I was in 7-5 East New York.
Oh, I love 7-5.
Yep. And then I was lieutenant in the 105. I got drafted by Internal Affairs. Was there for a little bit, and now I'm in Special Victims.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you're doing all right.
Yeah, it's okay.
When'd you get on? What do you got left?
I got 4 years in July. I've left.
God bless you.
Oh man.
Can you leave in 4 though?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
God bless you.
I know a lot of guys like kids, college, all that shit. Like, what do I do?
I'll be a greeter at Walmart.
Well, do
I got
yourself a-
6.
Buy-
My baby is right here. This is
Buy-
the purse is my baby.
Buy
That's it.
all the long guns you can get now, and no, not even kidding. No, handguns. The process to buy a handgun right now, because I live in the city. You live in Nassau County, but your permit's still for the city, but you can transfer it. Think about every pistol you want to own for the rest of your life, if you have any. I don't know if you're a gun guy. I am. Do it now because you're going to have such a hard time going forward. Home
They're
defense.
going to make it impossible.
Home
It's not
defense.
even a purchase. Forget the purchase. See, you're going to get me started. Why are you trying to do this? You know I got a bad heart. Look, I'll say it hurt. It's
in
the
his
insurance.
Defense, you did ask if he was going to ask any questions.
That is true.
So now I'm exactly. So now I bring it.
The insurance is how they're going to get you. It's not the purchase. The purchase is not going to. They're going to
homeowners.
make it impossible to
Oh,
own.
how about the
guns.
possibility of having a tax? So, if you have a silencer suppressor in most states, you have a federal tax stamp, which is $200. So you buy this suppressor, and it's $200 just for the tax stamp, plus what it costs to buy it, which is probably another $200. It's $400 to get this, and you can move it from gun to gun to gun. What they're proposing is that every gun
That it
has
fits?
its own stamp. So every gun, so now every pistol is going to have to pay $200 for every pistol. Yeah, every rifle, every shotgun, and at the end of the day, whatever that number is, for me it would be $6,000 or $7,000.
I mean, that's how they're going to get you. It's not going to be the purchase. It's going to be the after purchase cost.
Yeah, but if you have it, there's a possibility that it will be grandfathered in, and whatever you have now won't be touched. It's what you buy after the fact when they pass that. So if you can get your hands on something that you kind of think maybe you want,
Good luck.
You do it now.
But if you really need the money for it, you can go and fund the first and stuff.
Salesman,
This down.
love it.
If
listen,
anyone
we'll let
wants to buy Josh guns,
Yep, we'll let it
I will
fly.
verify with ID me.
JoshGuns.com.
Josh Guns.
Judge in the Derek Chauvin trial.
Oh,
Come
boy.
on, can we?
Derek, you know who that is, Christian?
I know.
Who?
The officer who supposedly killed George Floyd by choking with his knee.
Can we turn
When
this
in,
mic off?
when in reality,
Can we
Just shut him up.
Shut him. Mute him.
Shut him up.
Done.
You're
Thank you. You're
Done.
done. Kill this
So
guy.
Minneapolis, he has blocked. He has. Let's check. The judge has blocked the ability for the defense to bring up the prior criminal behavior of George Floyd, because he thinks it might skew the jury, even though the officers involved actually have personal knowledge of his criminal behavior because they had personal interaction with him. Yet they are allowing that. Well, not they. This judge is allowing that the disciplinary records of the officers involved is admissible.
This.
So they're allowed to talk about what the cops did before that day, but they're not allowed to talk about what the subject had did before that day.
what?
This all started with Aaron Dean. I
Oh,
told
boy.
you.
Yes.
I told you guys. Listen,
We-
I'm a little bit of a
It
prophet.
wasn't like we were disagreeing with you.
I'm a little bit of a prophet.
Nostradamus, basically, right?
Aaron Dean, Fort Worth, Texas officer, gets sent to a house, neighbor of somebody. Now, who knows a neighbor better than a neighbor? Calls the cops and says, "Hey, and this was what 2:00 in the morning. Says, "Hey, my neighbor's front door is open and the lights on, and that really doesn't look right." Okay, so the cops go in there. Now, if the neighbor's calling and he sees that things are out of whack, it's a good chance that this is probably a burglary. That's the mindset that anybody that wears a shield, that's how he's going there. He gets there, and this is all on body camera. You can see on this thing, he goes up to the house, he sees the light on, and the door's open. He leans in the front door, and on the body camera, you can see it looks like the house was hit by a bomb. Like there's just shit everywhere. So now, as that cop, automatically what you thought was a burglary is definitely a burglary now. So he backs up, and in accordance with Fort Worth's own general orders, they have a general order that says every open door is to be treated as a silent alarm, and the officer's first obligation is to search the perimeter of the building for avenues of escape before they search the interior. So he was following forget tactics, which makes sense anyway, to not go in the house by himself where there could be a potential active burglary going on. He was following his department's own general orders. Goes around the side of the house, comes around the corner, and he's met now by the homeowner who, to her own right, it's absolutely a tragedy because she, the argument is, well, she saw a flashlight in her yard at 2:00 in the morning. Of course, she's going to think somebody's trying to come into my house. She grabs her legally owned gun, and he comes around the corner, and she's at the window with the gun pointed there, and he shoots her. One shot. Kills her. He's waiting trial for murder right now. And I had said if we are in a society where a uniformed police officer, in the performance of his duties, in accordance with not just the law, but his own department's general orders, shoots somebody who's pointing a gun at him, is a murderer, we're in trouble.
So here's the thing, though. So take that same situation, right? She's in the house. Now take her outside of the house, and now she's in the backyard, sitting at her picnic table, having a beer. And then she sees that flashlight, and she grabs her gun, puts her flashlight up, and has a gun pointed, and that cop shoots her. Does that change that outcome?
No,
It's the same.
Tom, it's
a piece of glass. It's a piece of glass that blocks.
It's like I said, every tragedy, every crime every tragedy is not a crime. And that's the thing that's lost on people. Like what happened in Fort Worth is absolutely a tragedy. I mean, she's legal gun owner. If she, at 2:00 in the morning, whatever her condition was, if she woke up her 11-year-old nephew at 2:00 in the morning, chances are, like everybody else who gets home at 2:00 in the morning, she was probably shithoused and thought it would be funny to wake the kid up and start fucking with the kid at 2:00 in the morning. But whatever. No, they were playing. They were playing
video games.
They were playing video games. It doesn't matter. She's a legal gun owner. And she had the right to defend her house if she thought there was a prowler there. So it's absolutely a tragedy. Is he a murderer, though? Is he a murderer?
This is more about what's allowed in trial and what's not allowed in trial. I think Aaron Dean's going to be fine as far criminally speaking. He's never going to work again. Just like Chauvin will never work again, and Darren, not Darren,
Darren Williams,
Wilson will never work again as a cop, and they know that. They know that. Aaron Dean's never going to work as a cop again. You know who's going to work as a cop again? You know who is working as a cop again?
Who?
Joe Mensa. Joe Mensa, we spoke about 3 months ago. He worked for the Wauwatosa Police Department in Wisconsin. And what happened was he had 3 substantiated shootings in 2 years. Legit. Guy was aggressive. He was doing his job. He was out there. Young, male, black, doing his job. After the 3rd shooting, the committee of police shootings,
justified shooting.
All 3 justified.
Yep.
Decided that he needed to go. Mm-hmm. So they forced him to resign. Guess what happened? The Waukesha County Sheriff
hired him.
Eric Severson hired him. Hired him. He did a full investigation. He went to the Milwaukee PD. He went to Wauwatosa PD. He went to the Milwaukee DA, and all of them agreed that none of his shootings were unjustified. He didn't break any rules. He didn't break any laws. He followed all the protocol, but yet he was fired. He was forced to retire from undue pressure. And this guy turned around and said, "You're the type of guy I want to hire," and he hired him. He hired him. He was targeted for being a good cop. Yes, I get it. Not a lot of guys get into 3 shootings in their career, especially in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
Of
But
course.
they were all justified.
Right.
And if you read the stories on them, it was 2 of them. The guy was in the car with a gun. He shot a guy that was sitting in a car with a gun. Like, how much? What do you wait to get killed?
Facts don't matter no
No,
more.
it doesn't matter.
but Tom,
So apparently, being a good cop is frowned upon in some places, Christian. So they forced him to retire, and Sheriff Eric Severson from the Waukesha County Sheriff's Office hired him, and now he's a deputy sheriff there. God bless.
here's what I think. Going back to Fort Worth, Texas, with
I think we finished that.
no.
He's circling back.
No. But here's the thing.
Go ahead. Circle back.
If you were the cop, right, you know that people in that state of Texas are allowed to carry weapons, right, to carry guns for self-defense, defend their property, right. If you were in that same situation, what will you do?
Here's the thing. I don't care where I am. You point a gun at me. My first thing is to take cover. If I can't take cover, which he couldn't, he was in an alleyway with no cover. If you point a gun at me, I'm shooting at you. That's it. If I can take cover and identify myself, I will. And every cop will say the same thing. If you can take cover and identify yourself and de-escalate the situation, that's what we're trained to do. But if you can't do that, and someone points a gun at you, you have a choice. Do I run and maybe get shot in the back, or do I defend myself? And I believe he was defending himself. And it is what it is.
Even though she didn't say nothing, hey, I'm the homeowner or anything
no,
like that.
Listen,
She didn't say nothing?
we don't Monday morning quarterback. All we can do is make a we can have an opinion based on facts and what we know. And what we know for sure is that he was in the alleyway investigating a burglary, and the person on the other side of the window pointed a gun at him. I will not second guess him. I will not Monday morning quarterback him. I will just say that I think in that position with no cover, I would have done the same thing. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know if there was a garbage can.
Everyone that wears a shield would have done the same thing.
But here's the thing. You're trained to do that. You're trained. So you could say, well, why didn't you just go in the apartment and say, hello, police? He wasn't trained to do that. With that open door, they were trained to treat it as a burglary. So you secure the outside perimeter. And as he was securing the outside perimeter, he looks in the window and he sees someone pointing a gun at him. Done. I can't.
Right. He may thought that was a burglar.
Whatever it
Point
was.
at him.
I don't know what he thought.
He may thought about that.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
So what's going to happen when they don't get murdered with Chauvin? Because they're not.
They're not going to get murdered.
They're
with
not.
Chauvin.
Riots.
And
Simple as that. Riots in the streets
no,
again.
the riots are over. We have a new president. No one's going to riot ever. How about Ted Wheeler?
The story that he pepper sprayed a protester.
No, not a protester. Can I finish?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Ted Wheeler's coming out of a
Welcome,
bar.
Kevin.
Ted Wheeler's coming out of a bar.
See?
He sees
We'll
a
make it up
guy.
for you. Don't worry about it.
The guy walks up to him, starts giving him a hard time about not wearing a mask. So Wheeler's the mayor of Portland, Oregon, which is a fucking mess. Is Portland?
Yeah.
It's Portland, right? Yeah. So he comes out of the bar with his friend, who was the ex-mayor, who he's trying to convince to come on board as another political position. And Wheeler is approached by a guy who starts giving him a hard time about not wearing a mask in public. These are your mandates. How are you not wearing a mask? It gets a little confrontational. Maybe the guy was heckling him or whatnot, and apparently the guy got within 2 feet of him. So Wheeler took out his pepper spray and sprayed the guy in the face. Can you imagine if every cop that had someone within 2 feet of their personal space yelling at them, pepper spray them? How many people would be in jail?
Oh.
Seriously? So he felt threatened. So he pepper sprayed
Hiding in front of my shield We've talked about this.
And didn't
talked
he
about
didn't he
this.
impose a ban for police officers not to use pepper spray?
It wasn't him. That was
Oh.
Kate Brown is the governor there. That was her rule, but he agreed with it. Like there's certain things we can do.
Hiding in front of my shield. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people that are doing what they do to cops would not be doing that if it weren't for the fact that the people have a shield on. They know that they are limited and restrained as to how they can respond, and they wouldn't act like that to their parents, but they're doing it to cops because they know cops right now can't do shit.
But here's the mayor, an elected official,
Right.
Who is approached by one of his constituents, right? And he maces his constituent because that person got within 2 feet and was disagreeing with a policy that the mayor had implemented. And the mayor, according to this guy, who, by the way, is a lawyer. He's a lawyer who was just saying, hey, how are you going to shove this down our throats? And then you're not going to follow it. And then Wheeler said, I have pepper spray, stay away. And the guy was like, I don't really give a fuck about pepper spray. And continued to have the conversation, and he maced the guy.
Wow.
He maced the guy. You're the mayor. Can you imagine if de Blasio maced somebody? Well, first of all, de Blasio has 15 fucking suck-ass cops that surround him.
Told you we'd make this
And
awkward.
bodyguards,
Did
too.
I tell you we'd make this awkward?
No. We're not asking for opinion. We're just calling it what it is.
And does de Blasio have
Got-
a bulletproof car?
Yes.
Oh.
And this guys, they aren't great. I get it. It's all good. Wheeler doesn't have that. Wheeler doesn't have that. And then he maces one of his constituents for disagreeing with his policy and actually getting in his face.
Wow.
Really? Hypocrisy much?
Yeah, it is 100%.
You think?
1,000%, I would say.
You're not getting my heart rate up.
BlueStressTest.com.
Now we got one more. This is and we're gonna wrap it up with this. This is a good story. It's a good story because we had this guy on the show.
Oh my God, dead pause right there. Let
dead
Tommy
air.
enjoys his cigar for 1 minute.
Enrique Tarrio.
Uh-oh.
Enrique Tarrio. Enrique Tarrio.
Yep.
Enrique Tarrio. Proud Boys,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, I had it from one of my law enforcement connections that he's a good guy and he wasn't he's not being portrayed properly in the press. We had him on.
I've
We
heard that.
had him on the show.
We know
Yep.
that.
We had him on the show.
We gave him a platform.
We gave him a platform. He was a good guest. He took a collar for the having a 30-round clip in D.C. Now they're saying that he's an informant. How do we know he's an informant?
Informant for...
FBI and local authorities. How do we know this? We know this because former federal prosecutor Vanessa Singh Johannes has outed him and said he's an informant.
He's a plant.
His FBI handler is saying that he helped him get cocaine collars, weed collars, and ecstasy collars. This is not how you protect the CI. You don't protect the CI by publicly saying
Oh boy.
he's a CI. Like this is
Yeah, exactly.
You have
Well-
do you know any more about this? Like this is insane. This is insane.
How is he not fired for this or reprimanded?
Fired from what?
I said the word former.
Oh.
The guy was working with allegedly working with the FBI and a federal prosecutor on cases, and now they are coming out publicly saying he was our snitch. He was our CI. Now, of course, he's going to deny it. How do you protect a CI
Jeez Christ.
that's a confidential informant? How do you protect a CI if down the line you're going to say he's a CI? Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are they thinking?
I don't know, man. Bananas are thinking. I don't know.
Bananas? What are you even saying?
No, like I'm saying, it's a way of me saying they're nuts.
Dude.
Mute his mic.
If this shit has to come out in public, that gets done in the judge's chambers, right? You're in the middle of a trial. That's in the judge's chambers. Give us a leeway. This guy worked with us on this, and this. That didn't happen. They said it in open court, and then afterwards, publicly to the news, that this guy worked for us. Are you fucking kidding me? Not only did you compromise him, but you compromised every relationship between a cop and a CI.
Yep.
Ever. So, as a White Shield cop, you had guys that you work with a little bit, and then you had to hand them over to detectives. We typically held them ourselves against protocol. But then as a detective, you have those guys, they're registered, they get paid, and then if that gets out there, especially, depending on where you worked, they get fucking killed.
Exactly.
How do you put that shit out? But I think they were making a statement and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. And they put it out there publicly that he's denying it, and maybe it's maybe it's right.
Of course he's denying it.
He has to because he wants to
What
live.
choice does he have?
He has no choice but to
What the
deny it.
fuck? Christian, fine. Do your live read. I'm done.
Oh, come on,
I'm
Tom.
done. I'm done.
You're a quitter.
Sober Chris, go ahead.
All right. Y'all know my only read is thebluemagazine.com, the national independent voice of law enforcement. And also, check out our new issue. Go to thebluemagazine.com. And also, don't forget the Blue Calendar 2021. If you want to get your copy of the hottest law enforcement calendar, just go to thebluemagazine.com.
Check out
shop.
February. Check out February.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Especially February. Yeah.
Allegedly.
No,
Why are you looking at me
you know
like
what? Check July.
July is Christian in a banana hammock. It's Christian in a banana hammock.
I know.
Kevin, what do you got? Remind us. Remind us. Come on.
Thank you guys. Listen,
Fun the first. Fun the first.
FundTheFirst.com, @FundTheFirst for all our social media platforms. Thank you guys. Honestly, it's been different. I appreciate the commissioner also, but thank you guys. Honestly, God bless.
You got a good picture out of it, right?
Yeah, I got a good picture.
What do you got?
Brothers Before Others. We're hosting a cigar night with Jimenez Cigar. Jimenez Cigar Night. For anybody looking to attend.
You should go. I'm sure he makes a really great cigar.
Well, they had it all right in front of you.
All right, for all you gossip queen fucking cunts, Tommy is our guy. Was that put any of it to bed? Tommy is our guy. Shut your fucking mouths. But if you want to sign up for the Jimenez cigar,
I'll be there.
I'll help you.
I go to everything. Is fucking
We'll sell cigars out front.
from the cigar guy.
Yeah, we'll fund it. We'll do Fund the First. We'll go out front. This will be good. We'll shut it down.
If you'd like to start a Fund the First for a line of doing cigars,
We're doing good. We're good. We're doing good.
we'll bag it out.
go ahead, Tommy. You got a blog.
What do you got, Johnny Blue?
All right, we got www.
Can't hear you.
Proudpig.blue.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Negative.
Do it again.
Let's go, Einstein.
Or take Christian's microphone because it's useless in front of him.
Look at him just pushing buttons.
Now. Anything?
No, he's out.
Take Christian's.
All right, I'm just gonna take this.
Yeah, because
No, you can start it.
www.proudpig.blue. If you're not patrolling with the pig, you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
lovely.
Figures we would have a mic not working tonight. What the fuck ever?
Bullshit.
I don't know how.
When's the next show?
I think.
Is it the 8th? Is it
I think it's
Rachel's?
the 8th. Yeah, I think it's the 8th.
Next Saturday?
February 8th? Rachel's happy.
Well, that's the 6th.
I'm alive.
6th.
Rachel's
It's
I'm
not,
alive.
it's not a happy I'm alive.
It's a happy fucking occasion.
Tell her
that
to
she's
come in
alive.
here. Tell her to come in here. Stand by.
Her rack makes me happy.
Oh,
Fuck, yeah, of course. Happy rack day. Oh, she's actually coming in and sitting?
Yeah.
We don't have that kind of time. I got things to do, guy. I got places to be.
Like where? Where?
There's a rub and tug in Corona with my name on it. All right, so.
Yeah, okay. Like I believe that.
Oh, actually, I can give the address.
She was in.
No, this wasn't a group invite. I don't know what happened here.
I have an entourage.
This
bitch.
is bullshit. This is
The
bullshit.
calendar gals.
Oh, Tommy, do you want a fresh drink?
No, I'm good actually.
You sure?
So our next show.
Well, we're over now. So
Hey, Hall, I would love a fresh drink.
What would you like, my love?
It's in the fridge. Same can.
we're not going to be here that long.
Oh yeah, I'm not leaving now.
Yeah, we're going to shut it down.
February. Yes.
I'm like a roach. Can't get rid of me.
I'm like a roach. You're going to smoke me with a clip.
straight, neat.
So what do you want in there?
I want it back old school.
Pick anything.
So February 6th,
February 6th.
is-
What's February 6th?
Rachel's
Oh man.
I Didn't Die Day.
It's an alive
Ra-
day,
Rachel got
Tommy.
shot.
It's not an I didn't die day.
Rachel was shot in line of duty and didn't die. She lost half a titty and some other stuff, but she's still here.
Oh,
So-
that's disrespectful, Tom.
Is that
Damn.
disrespectful?
We
She
had
knows.
this conversation.
She knows.
I thought it was in confidence.
There's no secrets here. There's no secrets here.
Happy Alive Day.
Yeah, the actual body organs that were destroyed, they mean nothing. It's just the one titty. That's the only thing that matters to
I love
anyone
your
in this
organs.
room. Yeah.
Nice
10
organs.
10 years.
10 years.
I literally I feel like it was a million years ago and yesterday at the same time. So it's crazy.
What do your boobies think? Your boobies think it was you?
They're
happy?
They're happy. They're
Awesome.
just perky and happy
Yes.
and about 32 years younger than me.
Awesome. You should have got shot in the face. No, I'm just saying.
Oh my God, yo!
Did I say that out loud?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Holy.
Unbelievable. Yo. Yo, can I slap him? Can I slap him, please?
Holy.
I'm gonna smack him, yo.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been real.
Yo, he should be smacked right now.
He should be dick punched for that.
So-
There's
Yeah,
no
do it.
Oh, Holly, welcome back.
I'm sorry. It just comes out of me. I can't help myself.
Wow.
I mean, how savage can I get in this room? How much?
Go ahead. Run it. Run it.
Go ahead.
At this point.
Oh!
So February 6th is our next show.
Oh my God.
It's going to be a great time. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of positive conversations
Show is over.
on February 6th.
What a way to promote it. Oh my God, yo.
Thank you for joining us, I guess. Tommy, do you want to do your plug?
Nope. Absolutely not. Nope, we're good. We're good. Nope, nope.
Line of Duty Cigars?
No, doesn't exist. Not my company.
He's an employee. I'm an employee of this man.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
So glad I joined you,
Danny,
fucker.
Danny, I resign. I'll give my 2 weeks now. We're good.
You can work for Burke on Saturdays once a month. We're out. When are we back? February 6th?
Yeah, February 6th. It's gonna be an awesome show.
I won't be here.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Oh no, I
Yes, you
won't.
will.
It's
You
gonna be
can't.
an awesome show.
You'll be here.
Me and my ugly face will be somewhere else.
Rachel should have gotten shot in the face.
Oh my God, yo.
We're good.
All right. Have a good night.
Love.
Stay tuned for tea time in about 3 minutes.
That's what we do.
God, yo. I'm
Get us out of here.
If you are searching for a doctor that truly cares about your overall health and well-being, contact Dr. Alex at Tri-State Health and Wellness. For more than 11 years, Dr. Alex has been treating law enforcement professionals and their families while focusing on one-on-one care so you never feel rushed. All necessary testing can be conducted during your visit, and they feature flexible hours and appointments to accommodate alternating work schedules. Tri-State Health and Wellness is conveniently located in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Contact Dr. Alex today by visiting www.bluetristate.com. Mortgages for everyday heroes. From Michelle Hendershot and Homebridge Financial Services. If you're looking to purchase a home, or refinance an existing mortgage, Michelle Hendershot can assist you every step of the way. With over 10 years of experience assisting law enforcement officers with their dream of owning a home, the choice is simple. Contact Michelle Hendershot today. Visit www.mortgagesforblue.com. Are you tired of sleeping alone each night? Feeling sluggish during the day? Is your snoring keeping your spouse awake at night? If you find yourself spending too much time on the couch, maybe it's time to visit Dr. Michael Doblin of At Home Sleep Solutions. Dr. Doblin is the preferred sleep apnea doctor of New Jersey's law enforcement officers. With the help of a custom-fitted oral device, you can finally say goodbye to noisy, antiquated sleep apnea machines. For more information and to schedule an appointment today, contact Dr. Michael Doblin. Visit www.bluesnore.com. Moment to Silence, Inc., along with Blue Suicide, is a nonprofit organization founded to support and raise awareness about the epidemic of suicides amongst law enforcement, military personnel, and first responders. For more information on how you can help, visit momentofsilenceinc.org. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or a certified used vehicle, then visit Fetty Auto Group, located at the junction of Route 46 and Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey. Fetty Auto Group stands shoulder to shoulder with the men and women in blue. Stop by and ask for Troy Mall and ask about the offers for first responders. For more information, visit FettyAuto.com. That's FettyAuto.com. The Blue Magazine, the law enforcement publication by law enforcement professionals for the men and women of law enforcement. The unfiltered voice of law enforcement. TheBlueMagazine.com. Are you patrolling with the pig? If not, you're doing it wrong. Check out all the newest swine swag at proudpig.blue. They are dirty by design. Check it out now. Visit www.proudpig.blue for all your swine swag. Visit www.proudpig.blue. Resumes by Joe. Owned and operated by retired NYPD second grade detective Joe Federa. With over 20 years of professional resume writing experience and focusing on translating what we do as cops into language that the corporate world can appreciate. We put an emphasis on ensuring that your cover letter and resume will be best received by the applicant tracking system used by most companies today. Check out our website at www.resumesbyjoe.com or call Joe directly at 347-992-4523. Don't forget to ask about the 50% discount for BBO members and most unions across the country. Give us the job of helping you get the job. Contact Resumes by Joe today. If you're a member of the law enforcement profession and are looking to establish long-lasting business relationships with businesses that are blue-friendly, it's time to visit visitblue.com. Visitblue.com features some of the best doctors, lawyers, realtors, as well as other service providers, such as home improvement and financial services. If you are looking for reliable, trustworthy service providers, visit visitblue.com. That's www.visitblue.com. Founded in 2014 by retired NYPD police officer Michael Burke, Brothers Before Others is a national 501c3 law enforcement charity comprised solely of both sworn and retired police officers. Since their inception, Brothers Before Others has sent floral arrangements to the services of all line-of-duty deaths, regardless of where in the country they occur, having spent over $350,000 to date. While the National Flower Fund remains their cornerstone, their benevolence has since grown well beyond that, even into the civilian world. For more information on how to get involved or to donate, visit brothersbeforeothers.org, or you can visit their public forums on all social media platforms by searching Brothers Before Others. Founded in 2016 by professional musician Neil Giraldo, 3-Chord Bourbon has developed a process that is defined as the perfectly tuned taste, blending carefully selected whiskey bourbon and rye whiskey stocks from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. Designed to be enjoyed with friends and family, 3-Chord Bourbon will leave you with the same feeling you experience after hearing that perfect song. You'll know their whiskeys are right from the very first sip. ahead. For more information on 3 Chord Bourbon and available merchandise, visit 3chordbourbon.com. Line of Duty Cigars, owned and operated by retired NYPD Detective Tom Werther. Visit lineofdutycigars.com for our handmade Nicaraguan cigars, custom ashtrays, custom humidors, and custom flask sets. Also, when you place an order, you choose the law enforcement, first responder, or veteran charity, and Line of Duty Cigars donates 10% to that organization. Planning a special event? Contact us today. Visit www.lineofdutycigars.com.